What's up, everybody? We are here inside of the new drive-thru location at Cafe Kubal, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in Sweetheart Corners. And we have the opportunity today to make a call with Dan Tortora to sit and relax and talk with Tim Bednarski, the Director of Athletics at CNS. So how are we doing, Tim?
Good. Thanks for having me today.
Absolutely. And you're wearing the right stuff today. Got the right gear on. Now, is this the new gear? Because these look like very nice Under Armour threads.
No, these are from last year.
These are from last year?
Yeah.
Okay, all right, fair enough. I'm wearing what I'm supposed to be wearing today. Normally I'd be wearing my WakeUpCall t-shirts, different things we made from our products here in Syracuse right off Court Street, but I have to wear Italy today. I have to. And I had to catch you up on it because you missed it yesterday.
Yep.
Did you have a dog in the race?
I just happened to catch the highlights on Sports Center this morning.
Okay, yeah. Penalty kicks.
Yep.
It was penalty kicks that did it. And, you know, some people think that's fair, some people don't, but it's what it comes down to. I wanted if my teams were going to lose, which I had Italy and Spain with my heritage, if they were going to lose, they said they had to play as long of a game as possible. And when Italy played Spain, they played all the way to penalty. I think they played all the way through 2 extra periods, 2 penalty kicks, and Italy beat them by one penalty kick. And then in this one, I don't know if you saw it in the highlights, but England made their first 2 goals. Italy had made one, missed one, made one, and then it was England's to take from there. And so they had the opportunity, and goalkeeper Donnarumma for Italy is standing there, and he sees the guy, and the guy hesitates, and he goes like this, so he kind of showed the guy he was going right. He still goes right, and the ball goes left, it hits the pole and bounces off, and then the next 2 Donnarumma blocked, so he's the one that saved it for everybody, and he started off really bad. So it was good to see it. I went nuts on my social media. I don't know if you saw my video, but yeah, I got excited. So but being a director of athletics, obviously you have to pay attention to all sports, and get into that. So I would suggest that you go back and watch the game. Okay. So how's life been? It's been a while since you and I sat down, and we're right down the road from CNS here. It's at Cafe Kubal here on the Sweetheart Corners location right north Syracuse off of Route 11 and Taft Road where they meet each other. So how is life up the road?
It's good. Things have relaxed a little bit now that we are in summer mode, preparing for the fall and hoping that fall looks a little bit normal now compared to last year. But that's the plan, and we're moving forward in hopes that we'll have a normal fall season to start us off.
Going through this spring, you said we're talking off the air about it a little bit, it started to feel a little more normal, and it started to maybe look a little bit the part again. Bring me into that, what it kind of looked like.
Well, I think it started with, we stopped testing the high-risk sports in the spring, and then the capacity of spectators and some of the rules were, with the county, they changed and lightened up a little bit. And as we got into the sectional playoffs, which we hadn't had since the fall of 19, or winter of 1920, the fan capacity had changed, and you could feel the excitement of having some, when somebody scores a goal or the roar of the crowd. It just felt better to see everybody back in the stands again.
Yeah, and being able to experience that, I got to experience it with girls across going through the sectionals, and it felt, I told you this too off the air, it felt, I kind of forgot, when I went to the girls game, the CNS game at West Jenny, I wasn't really thinking about it, but when I went to the championship at Beeville, it hit me. I looked around, I'm like, nobody's wearing a mask. We're all just around each other. It was crowded. It was like arm in arm. And it felt in that moment as if nothing had ever happened. And I was seeking that moment, I guess. Subconsciously and consciously, I've been seeking that moment for a year and a half. But when I finally got it, it didn't really hit me till it hit me. But it just goes to show you how easily we could flow back into normal life if given the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was thinking about that as on those highlights of the soccer, they were showing a restaurant bar that it was packed watching the soccer game, and you do forget about going out in public places. And, you know, I still reach for the mask as I get out of the car, but not needed. So
yeah, you know, I do that too. I always, when I'm walking, I always feel like I'm naked. You know, like there's something that I'm like, do I have pants on? I have socks. I'm like, I keep thinking like, how did I wake up? Because I'm always doing stuff. So I'm thinking in my head like, I forgot something, like the emperor's new clothes, but it's the mask. It's knowing that I don't have to put it on anymore. So there's so much beauty in the fact that we all don't look like Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, and we can see people's smiles again. But I don't know, there's something about being at a game, and I mean, obviously I do this because I love it. You know, I'm not just a sportscaster I mean, you have to love sports in general. You have to love athletics to do what you do. And so there's something I said to my buddy during all this. Ross Turetsky, he's a great writer in Northeast PA, and we were talking about it. He said he was allowed to go to certain games, and he said to me, I will never not appreciate what this means to me. Like I'll never disrespect the opportunity that I have again to go to a game. Like complaining, oh, I gotta go to a game tonight, it's raining. Like he said, it's just gonna change my mindset. And I think for me too, because I was at the Dome when it was renovated and nobody was allowed in there. It was the staff, the teams, and the media. And I was one of the few people in there for football and in there for basketball. And it almost feels like a weird dream that it didn't happen. But I remember looking around, and I mean, there's nobody in the Dome. It's just us. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to complain when it snows, and I'm not going to complain when it's cold, and I'm not going to complain when I'm walking up the hill, because I was one of maybe 40 people that was in there. And that is something that like only I and 39 other people can tell the story of what it was like to be there in 2020, because nobody else was there. There was no concessions, there was nothing. You know, I'm surprised the water was on in the bathroom, you know, it was just a surreal experience, but hopefully it taught us to appreciate things.
Absolutely. We had that with our winter sports where we had no fans. Yeah. And it was weird. It almost felt like a practice. But as time went on, we started slowly letting more fans in. And I think I agree with you as far as the appreciation. Even going to restaurants or you know, you think about even the NFL players or NBA players when there's no fans. I mean, there's no hype. You know, it's difficult, and I think a lot of people appreciate more now what they have.
Yeah, you know, and I think you being a married man and being a father too, what's that been like for you going through this process?
Well, I think it's like anybody that has kids, you want your kids to be safe, and but like everybody, we were kind of all cooped up for 3/4 to a year of staying home and quality time, and couldn't really go anywhere, couldn't go on vacation. But looks like the light at the end of the tunnel is there, and it sounds like we're moving in the right direction.
How did you get through this? Because some families wanted to kill each other, and some families got stronger. So how'd you navigate?
We just stayed busy, especially when it first happened, March, April of 20. We spent a lot of time going to parks and hiking and doing things that I normally wouldn't have the time to do. So part of that was good. Just staying busy within things that we were allowed to do. Most of it was outside, obviously. And as far as dinner and stuff, we did a lot of takeout and brought it home, and so it was good.
I mean, the thing that I did from the beginning was walk. I just went outside, and it was kind of interesting for me, because I said that God hit my reset button 2 years before he hit everybody else's. So when the pandemic hit, I was already kind of resetting, and then you go through stuff in your own life, and it was paralleling the pandemic. So I was already needing to change, grow, get healthier, get better, And then the pandemic hits, and it was healthy mind, healthy body, and it was in April. And I remember saying to myself, like, if I want better, I have to do better. And I just got outside and I started walking, not knowing what I was starting. And I just kept doing it every single day. And it was a way to pray, it was a way to listen to music, it was a way to get healthy, it was a way to build up my stamina, my endurance. And then it was like 250 days straight in, and I was just like, wow, my body changed. My mindset changed. My overall health changed. And I went to see my doctor because I had a knee injury a few years back, and he's like, whatever you're doing, your knee looks better than it's ever been. And I was like, I'm just walking. Like, I'm just doing normal stuff. But it changed without the pandemic kind of, I don't know, I think the pandemic kind of made us all go stir crazy inside, but I was already stir crazy. So I didn't need the excuse, but it kind of looked like I did it because of the pandemic. I was actually doing it for me. And so I kind of said in the middle of it all, if you come out of this thing the same or worse, you didn't learn anything. You should come through this better. And families should be stronger, and you should appreciate board game nights more, and cooking together and going on a hike together, because why wouldn't you? And I think that the sad part of it is, and maybe it's a healthy, maybe it's a cleansing part, is you kind of realized if you were in the house with the right people, because if you weren't, be it a wife, a husband, a roommate, family, mom and dad, whatever, if the situation wasn't good, you kind of knew it wasn't good, and then going through the pandemic, you really knew it wasn't good. And then the opposite, if it was good, you knew that it could be great. So I think, if anything, it kind of showed us where we needed to be, and it should have pushed people to be better, I would think.
Absolutely. I was trying to think of, I had a story to share, and I lost my train of thought. But no, yeah.
You were talking about hiking and being with the family, and kind of, we were talking about adversity. I mean, did you have an adverse moment? Did you have a moment where you're like, oh man, like you felt run down, and you felt kind of heavy as a father or something like that? Did you ever have a moment?
No, if anything, it was the opposite. I felt like I had more time because I was home more in the evenings, and even though we weren't doing the athletic activities with my kids, we still were busy, and I was able to be there because I'm usually not home at night, running from game to game. But I enjoyed some of that time. So there were some positives with the shutdown for a while, but I'm glad that it's back and just normal life again.
How did you become a better husband and father?
I think knowing that the time that I get at home, I try to make sure that I spend it as quality time in the little time that I do have, and making sure that we try to do something, or that we make a point to eat dinner every night together that we can. And even during the school nights, there's times where I try to swing home and eat quick and run back to the next event.
So to you, because I think what the important thing is, whatever we learned or appreciated during the pandemic, we have to keep it. Right? It's easy when you fall back into normal life, whatever we consider normal, that you lose all that, right? Like it's easy for me, once the games start up and everything, to not eat on time, to run around, to not do my walking, and to kind of get lost in it, and then all of a sudden you're like, I did all this work and then it all went away. So how do you, consciously say to yourself, these are the things that I did with my family? Like you said, if I have a game and another game, I'm going to try to run home to eat dinner. Do you put that conscious effort in every day, and do you feel like you kind of remember, like, hey, don't forget the things that we did the last year and a half that were good as a family? Do you feel like that's there with you?
Yeah, absolutely. And the crazy thing is that my kids are starting to get at the middle school, and my son's going to be a freshman in high school. So they're super busy now too. So
Yeah.
even if I come home to grab something, they may be running to their event. So but those times that we have, we try to enjoy it, and then obviously on the weekends, Sundays we try to do stuff, and of course during the NFL season we watch the Bills. And
and Jim Rosakowski, who's right up the road at Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, a big Bills fan.
Yep.
And that's no secret. Shout out to you, Jim. So the Bills this year, to take a break from CNS and whatnot for a second, because you are a Bills fan, how do you feel this year?
Good.
You feel good?
Yeah. The only question is the running game, making sure that.
We got a message in here. Oh, okay. So go ahead.
Just the running game. I thought maybe they would have picked somebody up, but I think in the draft it was past the point of the guy from was it Clemson?
Yeah.
He was taken, and maybe they felt that there was nobody better than what they already have at that point.
Yeah.
So with Singletary and Moss, hopefully they will improve this year, and obviously Josh Allen, and they picked up Sanders. So we'll see. I hope we can get through that AFC game and get to the big dance.
The Bills, I will say, there was a time, and this was probably maybe like a decade or so ago, but there was a time where Sports Illustrated, which normally I trusted things that they said, but they had come out and said the Bills were going to win the division of the AFC East like years ago. And I thought it was insane. I was like, they're not even going to make the playoffs, and they didn't. But now there's actual, like, it's viable that they should be in the playoffs, that they could be one of the best teams in the AFC, and that they could get to an AFC championship game. So I think it's gone from people having these thoughts that were maybe rose-colored glasses to it now being a real thing. And for someone who covers all 32 teams, and the NFL is something that, like, I love paying attention to, and we talk about it every week. So getting into it, I really do think the Bills are a strong team. And I think Josh Allen, fantasy football, because we do fantasy for WakeUpCall. We have a fantasy challenge over at the Wildcat, and where you will be drafted Sunday, August 29th. I'm there all day, running all the drafts. And the great thing is, if you win, and Penn and Trophy that's here in the community makes their trophies, but if you win, you get a Lombardi trophy, and it's heavy. It's a smaller version of it, but it's big. And so you either get a Lombardi, or if you get last place, you get your face in a toilet seat, which is awesome. And there's like a little thing to put M&Ms, like candy in or whatever. So looking at it this year, I think Josh Allen is the second best fantasy quarterback behind Pat Mahomes. And I say that very calmly. Like, I don't think that that's a crazy thing to say. Singletary and Moss, I'm surprised, because Devin Singletary, who's got one more year on Zach Moss, they've only been in the league with, I think this is like Devin's third, Zach's second, and Zach was hurt last year, and people started to lose faith in him because he wasn't consistently hurt. And Singletary is so down on some of the fantasy football lists, he's like off the radar as a running back. And I'm like, he's still the starter. So I feel like people have lost faith in Singletary and Moss. Definitely Singletary, but way too early to do it. So I know you brought them up. Have you lost faith?
No, I haven't lost faith. And, I think the Bills. I think the AFC game they drew like 90% of the time or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's when Moss was out. You see these running backs, sometimes it just takes longer to get into the rhythm and understanding the league and how to be a professional running back. And so I'm anxious to see, especially Moss. He had that turf toe issue, and then I think broke his ankle at the end. Yeah. So he'll have a whole year of off-season training, and then so I'm hopeful.
Well, I think you should be now. I think Bills fans have a reason to be hopeful, and I know Stephon Diggs is who he is, and he's proven he can do that in 2 places. And, Minnesota and in Buffalo. And Emmanuel Sanders has been around the block he's not that old to seem like he's been in the league for like 100 years. But he's bounced around, and he found some hay in Denver, but now he'll look to maybe take some emphasis off of some guys. But I think one of the sleepers in fantasy and reality is Gabriel Davis, who I covered at UCM. So I think he's a guy you got to look out to. Dawson Knox, I'm not sold on their tight ends right now, but I think, defensively, you have Levi Wallace, who is the first guy I ever interviewed from Alabama, who's in the secondary. You have Matt Milano, who I interviewed from Boston College. And you have my guy covered, when I cover the American at Houston, you have, I'm going to miss it here, at Oliver. So at each part of the defense and each piece of it, there's a guy that I'm connected to in Buffalo. And then, Josh Allen, if Eric Dungy had not come here and went to Wyoming, he was going to fight Josh Allen to be the starter in Wyoming. So there's a lot of kind of cool connection with the team, but I'm excited for Buffalo fans. I'm a Jacksonville fan, and I don't hide that. I wore it coming in here today, but I'm happy for Buffalo. I think you guys should be okay.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was the upper management change. Obviously Coach McDermott, but also the general manager they hired. I just think they have a clue of what's going on and what they need, holes to fill, and that's what their goal has been over the last 3 years. And building around Josh. So he's an outstanding athlete, but sometimes he can scare you a little bit. But I will say last year, he's gotten better and better each year, but he made less mistakes, mental mistakes, and obviously he proved it.
And he's a great 2-minute drill guy. Come to the end of a game. When was the last time since Jim Kelly, and maybe Doug Flutie, but when was the last time that you actually thought that a Bills quarterback with 2 minutes to go could march down the field and be in the red zone, and you think that he's going to throw a touchdown more often than you think he's not? Like, when I saw Josh Allen at the end of the game, there was like 3 games this past season where I thought they're going to win. And when was the last time you could think that?
I can't, but I thought you were going to bring up that Arizona game where he brought right down and hit Diggs in the end zone with 50 seconds left, and then they went down and scored. And it was on yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
I did not watch it again. Once was enough.
Yeah. For Jacksonville, there's nothing I could have watched last year. But they have Trevor Lawrence now, and they have Travis Etienne, 2 guys that covered at Clemson. And so, for me, I'm excited, but I'm also excited because people already forgot about James Robinson, who was undrafted as a running back last year out of Illinois State. He ran for over 1,000 yards. So you have that, and I don't know how everybody asks me how I feel about Urban Meyer, and I'm torn. Because I don't think him and I maybe stand for the same things, but he's not he knows how to win. I just don't know if I would win the same way. But if he does things correct and morally and justly and by the book and they win, then I think I'll be okay. And I'm also everybody's got an opinion about Tim Tebow. I've met him twice. I had the opportunity to talk with him. I don't see the need to constantly bash a guy who believes in God, works hard, and tries. I don't. Do you get? You cover athletes all the time. Are you kind of weirded out by the fact that people are obsessed with Tim Tebow, but there's really nothing. There's nothing wrong with him that we've found this far. I don't know why people care so much. Is what I'm saying.
No, I think he's a upstanding man and has high morals and character.
Yeah.
I don't know about Urban Meyer's past as far as why he was released, or I heard the stories, but he has proven to win, and I think with Jacksonville the change is good. So I think whether it was him or anybody else, bringing somebody in, changing the environment, changing the culture, and obviously he picked up some good players along the way. The outcome should be much different than last year.
Well, that's the thing. Somebody told me, they're like, you guys should be better. And I was like, we only have to win 2 games. I mean, that's, I'm not asking for a lot. But, I mean, I think they're way better than the Jets, who I consider a Broadway show. They're not a team. They're just, if the Giants were on the front page with Tom Coughlin and Eli Manning, they wanted to be on the back page of the New York Post, which meant by any means necessary. And so it was like, Giants win, and then on the back it was, the Jets have a circus clown come to practice and they chase him with footballs. I mean, it was, I remember going to SUNY Cortland going like, why is this a Broadway show? Like, what? It was almost like they were committed to losing. They just wanted to have a story. So you bring in Geno Smith, who was never a real quarterback in the NFL. He played for West Virginia, and Syracuse beat him and really exposed him, and he never fit. And then you had Tim Tebow, who they brought in, and the only time that Rex Ryan brought him in was to run. So the Wildcat didn't work because there was no scheming to anything. It was like if he came in, you knew it was happening. So you just load the box. And then they took guys away from Mark Sanchez. It was always a show. And it got embarrassing after a while. And then, like covering the games and stuff, you kind of realized there was issues within the organization. I did. And hopefully those things change. But I'm worried about Zach Wilson. I think he's going to be another sacrificial lamb like Mark Sanchez and Sam Darnold. And, Sam's not even a bad quarterback. He was still in his rookie contract when they let him go. So for the only team that actually plays in New York, Buffalo, when people say, why are you not a Giants or a Jets fan? I was like, I don't live in East Rutherford, New Jersey. But the Jets, I have friends that are Jets fans. I have people that I love very much that are Jets fans. And it's, the Jaguars will be better than the Jets. That's what I'll say.
I would agree. My neighbor's a huge Jets fan, so I'm always riding them about it. And I think Darnold is a good quarterback, and I think he'll end up, where is he now?
Carolina.
Yeah, he'll
probably guy Matt Rule.
He'll probably be successful.
Probably will be, because if you leave the Jets in enough time, you have to have time. If you got enough time, then you should be okay. I mean, Chad Pennington was good, but he got hurt. And Joe Namath. And then, I say that all the time. I'm like, okay, you had Joe Namath, you had Chad Pennington. Sam Darnold was good. Mark Sanchez, everybody remembers the butt fumble, but nobody remembers the back-to-back AFC Championship games, and he did it as a rookie and a sophomore. So I think people, I don't think anybody sees the Jets for what they are, and realize that they kind of just wanted to be in the news by any means necessary, and it backfired, obviously. And now, Jacksonville doesn't have Doug Marrone anymore, and him and I are very different human beings. So covering him is different because my personality is the opposite of his personality. So it's strange, and I just didn't think his personality fit. I didn't feel like he was like a rah-rah guy to get guys going. And I don't know. For me, Tim Tebow, having him in a locker room, whoever Urban Meyer is, I mean, Tim is a motivator.
He's a winner.
He's a winner. He's a motivator. He's got faith. Like, a guy who has a strong faith, good morals, praise, wants to energize you, has been a Heisman Trophy winner, has won multiple championships. Why? I mean, he beat the Steelers the year after they won the Super Bowl. Like, why would you not want that on you? I don't even care if he's the long snapper. Just put him on the team. I just want him in the locker room. And with everybody saying, well, he doesn't deserve a spot, he's going to take a spot, and there's other guys. Jacksonville doesn't have any tight ends. So with all due respect, besides James O'Shaughnessy, he's not taking anybody's spot, and they need to have at least 2. So I think it's okay. They have my permission. They have my permission to put a guy on the team who won with Urban Meyer, and I would trust Urban since he recruited him once, and he could do it again. So I think, I don't know, I feel like sometimes the media, not sometimes, all the time, the media looks for a story where it doesn't exist. You know that, I know that, and there's nothing to tell. There's no other tight end in the country that people are worried about. So, I think, and there's really not great tight ends outside of Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Mark Andrews. There's a small list of guys. Evan Ingram, everybody loved. And now people think he sucks because he got hurt and dropped some balls on a team that had no receivers, no offensive line, and no Saquon Barkley. He was the only guy. I would imagine everybody keys in on him. So I think if you look at 32 NFL teams, you can name like 5 that have a good tight end. So I would kind of, I think Tim will probably end up being a little bit better than some of them and not as good as others. Nobody's asking him to be Travis Kelce, but, could he be better than another guy out there that's not a household name? Maybe. And at the end of the day, him and Urban Meyer know what it's like to hoist a trophy multiple times. So I'm cool with it. I would love Trevor Lawrence on the goal line and Tim out there at the same time and not knowing what the heck they're going to do. So listen, however we can get in the end zone, I want to get there. That's all I care about.
You mentioned Dawson Knox, but I remember seeing the Bills were looking at Zach Ertz. So that will be interesting if that actually pans out.
I don't understand why Zach Ertz is still out there. If Philly doesn't want them, allegedly, if he doesn't want them, or if they don't want him, and they have Dallas Goedert, why hold on to Zach? The thing is, Zach is still prime real estate, but it's July, and the season's starting very soon. So I don't understand. I mean, there's certain things I don't get right now. If Zach Ertz doesn't want to be there and they don't want him, why is he there? The second thing that I don't understand, because they said about Jacksonville should look at him too. The other thing is the Aaron Rodgers issue, because I know people that are close to that situation, and they're all on lockdown. It's like they're not allowed to talk about anything until they. So anybody that thought maybe this isn't an issue, maybe it's an embellishment, it's an issue. But it's like mum's the word on that. Deshaun Watson gonna be traded, not gonna be traded, and then I still think that Houston, however this information got out there, I feel like Houston's a part of it because they didn't want to trade him and they made him untradeable. So if that's the case, I don't know what they did or didn't do. It just feels like it was so convenient that they wanted to keep him, and then all these 20 some odd stories come out. But nobody knows if he's suspended. Nobody knows if Aaron's going to be on the team, and nobody knows where Zach Ertz is going to be, and it's July.
It will be interesting.
So
you can't always believe what you read. So
no, and you never truly know until you know. But I think the beauty of it is that we're talking about sports. We're talking about things that we love. We're talking about a return, and the NFL didn't have a bubble, and for the most part, they did well with they proved that you don't. And this was the thing that I didn't understand, and as a director of athletics, maybe you can enlighten on this. If you test accurately, right, and the team you're playing tests accurately, and if anybody has it here, and you put that person, in their bubble, and everybody else tests negative, and whatever here tests negative, if you have 2 negatively tested teams on the field at the same time around the court, you can't spread a disease you don't have. And the NFL proved even more so when the Titans came down with it and they played like the Vikings or whatever, that the teams they were playing weren't getting sick, but they had a lot of players that had it. So it was proven that even if you did play somebody in competition, you didn't necessarily pass it. And then, my question this whole time as I was fighting for high school athletics to be here in Central and Upstate New York, because it was killing me, because I know a lot of the kids, is if you don't have it and they don't have it, and you get on the field and you get on the court, you can't give something you don't have. So did that confuse you too?
Yes. When you saw, like, for example, the fall of 20 in other states had successful seasons.
Yeah.
The issue of the spreading would have been the outside bubble where the athletes are going when they're not at school or who they're intermixing with that may have, gave them the coronavirus. So that's why they were trying to isolate those professional athletes. Obviously, we couldn't do that at the high school level, but
But I mean, it's tough. But I feel like if kids want to play, then you're going to do the things you need to do. And as a director of athletics, I would imagine that your message to them was think outside of yourself, think about everybody. Did you put out a central message? How did you tackle this thing?
Well, It was difficult at times because just the contact tracing, if one was positive or came in contact with somebody. We had a couple teams that got shut down for 10 days.
Yeah.
And it may not even been a positive case. It may just have been the contact of somebody else that was. So they had to quarantine for the 10 days. And then, the big thing was, going back to what you were asking, is yes, we did talk with the athletes about isolating themselves. Some chose to go fully remote, so they weren't in the classroom with other students that weren't their teammates. But it wasn't everybody, so there's always that chance. But the big thing was what they were doing outside, going to public places or where they could actually expose themselves. And making sure that they're following the rules of wearing the mask, washing your hands, doing the proper things. Now that we have the vaccination and a lot of our student athletes and just students 12 and up have already gotten the vaccination, which will help tremendously to stop this moving forward into this fall, winter, and spring.
How do you track it? Do you know who has it and who doesn't? I mean, how does that work with the school?
Yeah, through the state, there's a system that when you get the vaccination, it goes into with all your shot records. Okay. So our nursing staff, who has been wonderful through this whole process, has access to that.
There's still, it's everybody's option. So some people will get it, some people won't. How do you tackle that, knowing that, if you go back to normalcy, so to speak, that, do you tell the people that haven't gotten a shot that they have to still wear a mask in school? Are you worried about ostracizing the people that have it, people that didn't take the shot? How do you handle that side?
Well, like I said before we got on air, that, the county will change things, as things go, and I'm sure there'll be new guidance coming for the fall for school. So
yeah.
I think as of right now, we need to still wear masks in school.
Okay.
So, but for the athletic piece, they pulled the masks outdoors. So we'll see what the new guidelines say coming for the fall. So it's hard to answer that question.
Yeah.
We're moving into 21-22 school year.
And that's the thing is, it can change, as you know, it can change at the drop of a hat. How many times we heard, you can, you can't, you can, you can't. And that feeling of not knowing. When you're a leader and you're a director of athletics, you're responsible, you're not a coach of one team, you're responsible to oversee all of the student athletes at CNS. So what did you feel on your shoulders the last year and a half?
It was a lot. The big thing is what you just mentioned. 8 o'clock in the morning, I may have given some direction on masks or whatever it may be, and by noon, the county may have changed it,
yeah.
Or some of the new guidelines would have come out because they were coming out daily and hourly. Things were changing rapidly. So the big thing was just to communicate with the coaches and the staff and making sure that we are following what the current updated guidelines are.
And for you to be a leader in this and to not have answers, I've talked to coaches about this. Normally, players go to coaches and say, okay, well, I don't get this, I don't understand this, so tell me. The coaches didn't have an answer. In your case, coaches, student athletes, parents, guardians, boosters, everybody's coming to you, and there's no answer sometimes. How did you handle the emails, the text messages, Tim, you're supposed to know because you're the leader, but you don't know. It's kind of like you're steering a ship and you're hoping there's no icebergs coming up, but you don't know. And so in your case, it was to the nth degree more than a coach because you were trying to answer coaches' questions too. How did you handle being in a world where I would imagine has never been anything close to this, where you didn't have an answer, you didn't have kind of an answer, didn't have anything?
I would have to give credit to Chris Leahy, who's our assistant superintendent, and myself and him, the nurses, and we had some direct contacts for the county. We would reach to them if we didn't have the answers, and try to get the most up-to-date answer for them. With the Zooms and the Google Meets, we tried to do that throughout the season to have conversations with the coaches, updating them. We're so big, a lot of it was via email, but just giving them the updated guidance, what's changing. And again, it would be Monday I may send something, and Wednesday it's different. Kudos to the coaching staff for being able to change and be flexible as things rapidly change throughout the whole season.
Here with Tim Bednarski here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, on site, on location, the Director of Athletics for CNS North Stars right up the road, and we're here at Cafe Kubal on the Sweetheart Corners, corner of Route 11 and Taft Road, the new drive-through location with indoor and outdoor seating. And Tim, for you, what did you learn about yourself as a Director of Athletics? Because when you took this job, as with any job anywhere in the world, nobody thought, there's going to be a pandemic in a year or two, and we'll figure it out. So what did you learn about yourself personally as a leader at this point?
Well, I think with the pandemic, this was a crazy one, and I felt that if we can handle this, we can handle anything. But the big thing for me, I think, was to utilize the resources around me, the people around me. This wasn't just me, even though I lead the department. I mean, my athletic trainers, coaches, nurses, superintendents. It was a team effort. Yeah. And a lot of times I will take work and do it myself. Where in this case, the big thing that I took out of this was, you have to rely on the people that have the experience or the knowledge, and I'll use the nurses as an example from the health field with some of this. I mean, our nurses were great with, the testing and helping me stay up to date on the current guidelines. So I guess the big thing would be just to utilize the people and the resources around you, and then obviously communicate it to the people that work in the department.
Knowledge is power is what I was always taught as a kid. How real did that get for you as a Director of Athletics? That knowledge about literally anything, because sometimes we were just scrapping at any information whatsoever. Do the masks work? Are we supposed to do this? Why is it 6 feet apart? Can I travel? Am I allowed to go see my mom? When I see my mom, can I give her a hug? There was literally anything. I mean, I remember seeing my mom, just her face was sunken, like she was sad, because I didn't see my parents for a little bit. I kind of stayed in a very small bubble, had my dog, and kind of just stayed in a very tiny thing, and we weren't going anywhere because nothing was open. So, cooking at home and whatever. And then I saw my parents, and I always give, I grew up in an Italian Hispanic household, and so, you give your mom and dad a kiss on the cheek, and you give them a hug every time you see them, every time you leave. And I would see my mom, and I would say, okay, see you, Mom. And I wouldn't give her a hug and a kiss. And I remember her standing in the driveway and me seeing her pain of my son's here, but I can't embrace him. So knowledge has been power, because we didn't know what we could or couldn't do. How did you deal with kind of the scraps of that? Can you hug somebody? Can you go near your kids? Are you allowed to go? I mean, we didn't know, can we see our grandparents? There was all of these questions that kind of became us all taking a chance if we wanted to.
Well, I think the big thing, instead of reading the Sports Illustrated or the newspaper, I was doing a lot of reading on the DIA website and the state website. But I was in the same situation. Like, this was the first time in 44 years I didn't have Christmas at, my parents' house. We chose to stay separate. They were heading to Florida soon for the winter, and so it was definitely different. But just the knowledge piece was just trying to stay on top of it.
Is there anybody? I don't think there's anybody in Central and Upstate New York that doesn't know the name Ryan McMahon right now.
Yeah.
Because every day, my mom said she's like that's my guy. Like every day she's watching. Like, what is he gonna say? But I would hope that it taught us to appreciate the hug, the kiss, the sit down. I was like, when things open up, like I hope people appreciate, a cup of coffee, a cup of tea, like what we're doing right now, because this was non-existent. Like, are we going to go back into normal life and forget what it's like to get coffee with somebody because, like, you're begging to do it a year ago, and now, like, it's so easy to do it again? Do we remember what it was like? I think it's, you don't learn the lesson. If you learn the lesson within the lesson, but you forget the lesson after the lesson, did you really learn anything? And I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how can, because this, I couldn't do this. This was, and I said to myself, never in a million years did I think anything could stop me from interviewing high school student athletes at like a restaurant or, coffee shop. It was the weirdest thing to me to say, like, I can't sit with CNS and just like talk about a game. And I mean, obviously you never think about a pandemic, but what in your brain would tell you that you couldn't, go and meet with the coaches or couldn't go, sit on the bleachers and watch a game? And for me, it was like, what do you mean I can't, like, I think Fran, my cousin that plays at CNS, I think she was one of the first people in my studio, and she hugged me, and I was like, are you sure? Like, I mean, I'm like her big brother, and she's like, I'm hugging you. But it was one of those things where you didn't know what to do. And I remember, like, I can't let anybody in my studio, I can't go anywhere, and I'll never forget, a coach asked me, it was in March, it was March 9th. It was like the day before, it was the day that the NBA said nobody in the locker room and all that. It was a Monday. And I was supposed to fly the next day to the ACC tournament. And I think I've gone like 7 out of the last 8 years. And so I'm supposed to go to the tournament, and something inside of me is going, I don't know if I should go. And half the people I talk to, family and friends, were like, you're just worried. You're overthinking it. And the other half of the people were like, stay home. And I had a guy, Bob Holliday, shout out to you, Bob. I had him down there in that area, and I'm going to an event, and he shoots me a text message, and he says, hey, just so you know, 5 people came back in the Charlotte airport, and they had coronavirus, and I'm supposed to fly into Charlotte. So I'm like, all right, okay. And then another thing, later on that night, he's like, there's something in Raleigh, and a bunch of people went up to Boston. And I guess there was an event, there was like an expo, something in Boston, and people got sick or had the coronavirus, and they came back to Raleigh. So now there's 2 strikes. And I'll never forget, the coach I was talking to that night was sitting on my right, and people go back and watch the video. He looks at me during rapid fire, and he said, do you think this corona thing, how real do you think it is, and how bad do you think it's going to get? And that was the day before everything changed. And I canceled all my stuff that night, and I laid in bed. It was like 10 o'clock at night, and on the ticker on ESPN, it said NBA, MLS, NHL, and MLB have all jointly decided to not let the media into locker rooms and have restricted access. And I said, well, the ACCs, they're going to do it, because if pro did it, college is going to do it. And my whole thing of going to the ACC tournament is I cover all 15 teams, and I build relationships by going into the locker room and sitting down with the players at their locker and having one-on-one discussions. So you take that away from me, why am I there? And so I decided not to go, broke my heart. Thursday they shut everything down, and that was the end. And my people that were like worried about me were like, see, you made the right decision. And then the people that told me that I was overthinking were like, you made the right decision. But how are we supposed to know anything, And that was March 9th. I'll never forget that. It was March 9th, 2020. And this, you know, my hope is that as we head into this year and kind of see things develop, you know, that things will get better, you know, and that we'll have a different experience. But I mean, it's 2 years of it, because you have tournaments that were shut down or never started, and then this year those tournaments didn't have fans, or it was restricted. And it's just, I never thought, like, as media, that if there's 80 seats, they're going to cut them in half, you know, and that's the thing with, like, the ACC, we come from all over the country, so, you know, when you get a message saying there's 40 people from Syracuse that want to go down and cover the ACC tournament, they're only going to let 5 of us go, you know, it's just strange to know how quickly things can change. And it really hit me when I couldn't do this. I couldn't be like, hey, Tim, you want to go to the coffee shop? Because the coffee shop wasn't open. And I wasn't allowed to sit with you because I could give you I could give it to you, you could give it to me. Like, we didn't know anything. So I literally went to the grocery store once every 2 weeks and stayed at home. That's all I did. And walked. So, I mean, in the beginning, did you have a regimen? I know you said you went hiking and stuff, but did you have, like, stuff you did that was like did you go to the grocery store, or did your wife go to the grocery? Like, who like went outside and put themselves in the zombie apocalypse, so to speak?
It was me.
Okay.
It was me. You know, mask. I used to wear gloves then, because when it first happened.
Oh, you wore the gloves.
Rubber gloves.
All right.
Touching the cart. And
I just wiped everything. Yeah. Do you realize that, like, at the grocery stores, I'm not going to name names, but they would tell you to come in one door, grab your cart, and then give your cart to and then they would wash every cart, and you can only go one way. They did that for like 2 months, and then gave up on it. And I'm like, so you try to keep everybody from being sick, and now you're not caring if anybody gets sick. And right, I mean, there's places that literally they would wash the cart and hand it to you, and then after a while, I went into one of the grocery stores with my mom, and I was like, I guess it's every man for himself. It was like, care, don't care. And yeah.
Even Aldi's, which you put the quarter in.
Yeah.
They had somebody out there cleaning them.
And then hand it to you. Yeah, and then I went in one day, and it was like a free-for-all, and I'm like, and then they didn't even have, like, stuff to wipe it down, so you have to bring in your own stuff. And it was weird to me to be like, okay, for these 2 months, we don't want anybody to get sick. After these 2 months, it's up to you.
On your own.
Yeah. But you were the one. Did the family choose you, or did you choose you to go out and bear the storm?
No, it's just usually me. I usually get up early and head out there before the crowds, too. Okay. I would go when it opened, but then the hours of all stores changed, too.
Yeah.
You know,
everything closed early.
And it wouldn't open till, 7 a.m., where some of them are open 24 hours.
When you went, did you realize, like I did at Aldi's, that, like, it was like chicken came in on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Like there was.
No, I didn't pick up on that.
There was, like, things and there was certain places that you had to go to know. Like, I could always get shrimp. You know, people didn't go for that. They went for chicken and, like, beef. Yeah. But it was funny to me, the things that were gone and what people in Central and Upstate New York care about. I realized that people in our community love Jif peanut butter more than any other peanut butter. And they like reduced fat Jif, which is mine. I went to 4 stores and I couldn't find it. And I remember just being like, Choosy Moms Choose Jif was the commercial as a kid. I went to Target, no Jif, nothing at all. And there was, like, Omega was there, the organic that tastes like, the inside of the bottle or whatever, like that was there. But there was like nothing there. And I remember saying to people, they took bread, milk, toilet paper, and Pillsbury pull-apart chocolate chip cookies. Like, it was the most random. And everybody left the Oreos and the Doritos until, like, week 3 or 4. And then there were no Oreos. And so you saw kind of, like, what people in Central New York cared about. And they cared about chocolate chip cookies, Jif peanut butter, toilet paper. And I'll never forget going to Wegmans, and there was a bread display. And they had just redone it. And it was like all of the Wegmans bread, honey wheat, whole wheat, whatever. And it was all full. And I grabbed a loaf, and I'm not a greedy person. I'm not one of the people that took like 100 rolls of toilet paper like I was going to eat them. And so I took the bread, and I said, you know what, I should take 2. And I didn't. I kid you not, I went back to the store within 2 days. The entire display was empty of all bread. And I was like, what are people doing with this stuff? And for the life of me, I couldn't figure out the toilet paper thing because going to the bathroom, like the flu would make you. It wasn't one of the main things of coronavirus. So to take toilet paper, but it wasn't like that wasn't one of the symptoms. So
I think it was the thought of like the ultimate snowstorm where you're gonna get locked out and not be able to go anywhere and get toilet paper and load up and get as many as you can.
like, why? I think there was people on eBay selling
Yeah.
toilet paper. Like, did you have to fight anyone for toilet paper?
No,
Okay.
no, we were able to find it just fine.
And it was then they started saying like limit one.
Yeah.
You could only take like and then people started taking the bath tissue, the moist wipe tissue. They started taking that. Then like the napkins are gone. And I remember I saw 3 Lysol bottles at Walmart, and I took 2. I was like, okay, I'm gonna have one in a backup. But I remember like it was the holy grail. I saw it on there, I grabbed it, and my mom could always find hand wipes. I could never find them anywhere. She could always find them, and so she was the one that kind of got them for the family. And my dad didn't have like anything. My dad was like, I don't care. And so like my mom would have them, and she kind of, we all care, but my mom was kind of like whatever, because their generation of baby boomers, and they've been through a lot, and so she's got the wipes. My dad doesn't, and I have everything, and I'm wiping my seat down when my dad gets in and then my buddy gets in. So but some of us, we just navigated through it. Like I had a group of people, and my best friend came into town, and he lived here for like half a year, and I never thought he'd live up here. And I saw him like every day. And I was like, I'm not gonna not see my best friend. So I kept it was like mom, dad, best buddy, and then like our mutual friend that was in his household. So it was only like a couple households. But it was one of those things where, I think after a while we kind of all were like, we need to live some type of a life. You know what I mean? Like you gotta see somebody, and there are the people that would shake your hand no matter what, and then there's the people that are like terrified of everything.
I think the winter months made it tougher for that, because everything was indoors. You could at least meet people outdoors. But the thing we struggled was going back was getting the wipes, even in the schools. It took a while to get those.
You gotta get the good ones though. There's the ones that smell nice. So there's the ones that smell like you like dunked your body in sanitizer, and they just and then there's the ones the mall, Destiny US. I don't know who gave Destiny those big bottles that smell like throw up, but you put them on your hands and it had this after smell, and it was gross. I have ones right now. What is it called? Bactiva or Bactiv or whatever. Those ones smell delightful. So, you kind of had to, and I would think that like people would take advantage of this. They would make them smell nice. Like lavender scent, or have some smell like brown sugar. I don't know. But you would think that all I know is that the stocks of grocery stores and antibacterial stuff. Like, I don't know if a politician owed somebody something, but like Lysol skyrocketed. And if you go to the dollar store, you can't find like Lysol spray, but you can find the replenish bottles. So you can't find it anywhere, and all you have to do is go to the dollar store, dump it in, and there's ways around stuff. And we're also central New York as opposed to New York City, where like, if there's no toilet paper, there's no toilet paper. And that's when you use Taco Bell napkin.
Is that from history?
You always have to have a Taco Bell napkin. That's the thing. Like whenever I go to eat somewhere, I always take napkins and I put them in the car for like a tissue or to, wipe your hands, because you never know when you're going to need it. And people laugh about it. Oh, Dan, you got all these napkins, but it was your toilet paper. So what was the thing that made you laugh and shake your head the most in the last year and a half?
That's a tough question.
Like, I think we learned that there's people that I think even God looked out and said, did I make that? Like, what I mean? Like why would I make somebody to make that decision? Like when the people are running for toilet paper, I just feel like he was sitting up there going, I didn't mean for this to happen. So, is toilet paper the biggest one, or was there something else?
I'm trying to think of what there's been the craziest thing that I've seen since the coronavirus.
Yeah.
That is a good question. I don't know.
It's very open-ended.
Yeah.
The people that wear like a mask on the mask, or the mask in the shield doesn't get me. I don't understand. There was a coach, Josh Pastner from Georgia Tech, nice guy, awesome guy, but he didn't wear a mask. He wore the face shield, but it had like it was totally so, and he wore it during interviews too. So
there were some masks that were like that, clear. I think actually Coach Boeheim had one on at one point.
I never understood. Because when he got mad, he would take it and throw it, and he always pulled it down. I mean, I think if any coach in the world showed you they didn't want to wear a mask, it was Jim Boeheim.
That was one of the battles that I faced this year. Was the coaches and players pulling it down, to talk or
in basketball,
to breathe.
You see all the pictures like it fell off the nose, or there's the people like I went to Disney. In February and April, when people would cough or sneeze, they would take their mask off to do it. And I was like, this defeats every purpose. But yeah, I don't know. It was weird because I would see basketball photos and it was always off the nose. Because you can't run and dribble and keep it on your face.
Well, just even movement would slide it down.
Yeah.
I would say the kids were pretty good about keeping it up, especially when play would stop.
Yeah.
It was a battle. Trying to make sure everyone had it, especially when they came together.
Could you understand? I mean, did you have trouble understanding people when you went out, like when you went to a restaurant and whatnot? Could you?
Yeah, there's times. There's times.
Because I feel it's kind of like when you're on a plane and you can never hear the pilot. You remember like every radio on any plane ever from like 10 years ago and beyond, you could never understand what they were saying. The pilot would come on and you would hear every like 25th word. Like, landing at 3 p.m. Turbulence. And I'm like, are we going to die? You know what I mean? Like I need to. Now you can hear them and I don't understand. There's pilots now that'll talk and they're like telling their life story. They're like, when I was a child, I remember flying over Shea Stadium. And I'm like, why can we hear them now? And
technology.
But it's funny because because I do this for a living and I'm just used to like putting my voice out. I didn't hear a difference in myself, just maybe faint that there was a block, but there's other people sit right next to me. I couldn't hear what you were saying at all.
Some of those people you may not be able to understand without a mask either.
It's very true. It's very true.
No, I didn't. We didn't have any problems with that.
Did you have a cool mask? Did you have a CNS one?
I did have a CNS one, and of course I had a Buffalo one.
Okay. How much did the Buffalo one cost you?
I got a couple of them. Some were gifts. The first one I bought was down at the regional market.
Okay.
Made them by hand. I think it was like $5 maybe.
Did she sanitize your hand?
Yeah.
Gotta ask all
they
these
were
questions.
sealed. They were sealed.
Gotta ask all these questions. Like, what were you doing when you made this? Yeah. But it's making me think about. Have you ever been on a flight that you had an emergency landing?
No.
I have. So I fly a lot, and I was on a flight, and we landed in. I want to say we landed in JFK, and I remember I was dating somebody at the time who cared nothing of my life. Because when I told her we had an emergency landing, she's like, "You woke me up out of bed to tell me that?" And I was like, "I could have died tonight." And she's like, "I'm going to go back to sleep." She's like, "Obviously you didn't die." And I was like, "Okay, great." So this was moons and moons ago. But so the pilot comes on and he says, this is one of the times you can understand him. He goes, "You know those flaps?" He's talking to us like nonchalant. You know, the things when you look at the wing and you go to land and those things come up because they're supposed to hit the wind and they're supposed to like push the wind back so it helps them to stop. He said, "You know those flaps that are supposed to be on our wing?" And everybody was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, one of them's not working, but the other one is. So we can't put them both up to like block the wind when we land." So he's like, we just kept circling the airport. So he's like, "So technically what I'm saying is we have to land without it, And so I'm going to come in as smooth as I can, and I'm going to hit the brakes and hope for the best because I'm going to have to land this. Like, I'm going to have to stop us manually without the help. And so this is considered an emergency landing. And he literally said, he's like, I'm going to do my best to hit the brakes and just hope that we can. And I was like, okay. And it was the only time on a plane where I ever saw genuine, probably sheer, maybe one other time, where I saw like sheer terror in people to look at someone, to look at the lady next to me who like exhaled, everybody clapped, and I remember just holding on to the seat in front of me. But most of the time it's okay. But that was one of the times where, and then there was another time where we went out, we left, we went onto the runway, and the pilot comes on and he goes, well, we have to go back because the mechanical thing came on, which I always picture as like the wrench on a car, that light. He's like, mechanical came up and we got to come back and see what's going on with the plane. While we're sitting back at the gate, he says, this is when you don't need to say these things. This is when you keep it to yourself. Where my parents say you don't need to say everything. So we're sitting there and he goes, well, it's a good thing that mechanical light came on because I just realized that, well, there's no easy way to put this. We didn't have enough gas to get to our destination. So if we didn't come back for the mechanical, we would have ran out of gas in the air. Why would you say that? Like you just, and then come down. And it's funny, in the Black Widow movie, this isn't a spoiler, they run out of gas in the air. So.
Knock on wood, I have never been in that situation.
Yeah, so I would tell you to just, if you ever are a pilot, those are the moments to muffle your speech. Those are the times to wear a mask. But, so toilet paper was the craziest thing you saw?
Yeah, I think so.
America's run on toilet paper?
Yeah. I was at the stores early, so I didn't get to see the craziness during the rush.
The people fighting over it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just dumb to me. It's paper. So, I mean, in my head, I'm like, if there's no toilet paper, there's napkins, there's paper towel, there's other things to use. I used to camp. You can use leaves. You know what I mean? Like, there's ways to get around toilet paper, but there's not ways to get around, like, no chicken and no bread. And, if your baby needs Enfamil or something like that, like, there's no way around that stuff. But I was, I guess, just very startled at how America's response within the first 2 weeks was to take all the toilet paper. And not so much the food.
Except for, wasn't there like a beef shortage at one point?
Probably.
And it was just to get it to the stores or something?
Well, and there's stuff that, is running low randomly now. One of the things is chlorine. If you have a pool, it's the pool places are having a tough time getting chlorine in. So my mom, there was a chlorine shortage, and so she couldn't get chlorine for her pool, and then you have to find other means to do stuff. But
some of that's just employment and workers, just to get things out of the factories.
Yeah, I mean, and that's a conversation for another day. But I think it's time for people to go back to work. I think what's going to happen is when everybody's sitting at home and you go out to your movie theater, you go out here and there, and your food's taking an hour and a half to come. That's when you're going to realize, okay, I don't want to do anything, but now these people are affecting my time because they don't want to do anything. So someone's going to have to go to work to make my leisure time make sense. Because who wants to go to a concert and wait an hour for a beer? You know what I mean? So I think unfortunately, the only way that it becomes effective is when it starts ruining their time. It starts ruining their fun, so to speak.
Well, I know even in the athletics, some of the supplies we order are on back order because there aren't people in the factories where they're making, whether it's uniforms or balls or whatever it may be.
Yeah, and you don't think about this stuff. You don't think like, oh, just order it from someplace else, or just go to a different grocery store. And I think, in Syracuse, in this area, we're big enough. It's big enough that if you don't want to run into somebody, you don't. But it's not so big, And I think the rest of the world, if you're in LA or you're in New York City or you're in Dallas, Texas or Orlando, you may feel in a certain way that you're not going to feel here, but then somebody, in Butte, Montana is going to say, well, we never had a shortage of toilet paper, maybe. So, everything's kind of relative. And I think we're kind of, they always say Syracuse is a great testing ground because we're like right in the middle of everything. And so I think we felt some of the storm, but we didn't necessarily maybe feel all of it. Where some places, you got millions of people on an island, it's a different world. And I think the thing that just really caught me is there were players that were leaving New York State to go play in other states. And, it's hurting the schools here because these are talented players. But the kids are saying, like, I need to get film out there. You can't, if you're in college, they can give you a year of eligibility. If you're pro, they can shorten a season or adjust it like the NHL and the NBA and the MLS. But if you're not, then if you're in high school or, elementary school, whatever, if you're playing before college, there is no makeup. And so I know kids that had to leave this community and they had to go play, in summer league, summer tournaments just to get film out there, or they literally had to transfer back to get time in. And I think it's, to me, that was heartbreaking to see a kid, 14, 15 years old have to literally, one of the kids that I know, my guy Daniel Santiago.
I was thinking the same one. Utica Proctor, right?
Yeah, he had to leave, go to Arizona just so he could play. And he got to have a season, and then my man got a ton of offers to play college D1A FBS football. And if he had sat here with no film and nothing, what's he going to do? So I think that was the hardest thing for me to grapple with is, New York was one of the strictest. And if you had the means to move, if you had family, if you had money, you could. But how many kids didn't have access,
Yeah, and I mean, where are they going to go? Move their whole family up for 6 months and then come back, or maybe not. But, and especially the spring athletes having missed 2020, going into maybe their junior year, 2020, there's no film, and then they're getting film in the spring of 21, but usually by then they know what school they're going to. So that was tough on the spring athletes.
Yeah, Fran got a jump on it because she committed as a sophomore.
Yeah.
And not knowing, obviously, the world was going to change, but it's one of those things where, if you didn't have the film or if you were injured, there were all these things that went into it. You didn't have film, you got injured, maybe you had a coaching change, maybe you weren't playing your best, and this was your comeback year. I think that's the thing that broke my heart is how many seniors did CNS have, how many seniors do we have in this community that didn't get to do anything. No film, no nothing, and are they trying to walk on to a program? I mean, this is the difference between having 4 years paid for or having to foot the bill. And to some of these families, you can't afford it. I took out a student loan. My grades in my school, I was 98 out of 100 as a junior. And I had almost a perfect score in my major in college in digital media and broadcasting. And so looking at all of that, I still had to pay. I still have student loans. And my dad's like, you were in this lower sector. So, but my dad, we applied for, FAFSA, and my parents worked their butts off, and they're both blue collar. But how many families are relying on that scholarship? Like, they're relying on their kids saying, listen, I can't afford for you to go to the college down the road. And I don't think that we're telling enough of those stories about the seniors that didn't have a shot at anything. And are they in college now? Or are they, working at the local store because they don't have the money? And I think we talk about kids saying, I don't want to go to college, but what about the kids that did want to go and they couldn't? And I think that's heartbreaking more than anything, because we've kind of all moved on to the next sport and the next team. And, I don't think it's fair to forget the names of the people that got screwed over. I mean, there's really no way to say anything else. I mean, these kids had something stolen from them that they'll never get back. And one of the kids said to me, he goes, they're playing in New Jersey. They were playing 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And I had one of the baseball kids tell me, he goes, BJ, when I was talking to BJ and Bryce Sicaro, and Bryce was able to play in summer tournaments. And so, like, when the whole world was stopped, he was allowed to travel because the team was, if you wanted to travel, you could, and, follow guidelines and everything. But he was able to travel. And so he's living his life, and everybody else is sitting at home, and he got all this, he got film, he got experience, he got to get better. And so, I
And that, well, going back to what you're saying, that's costly too.
Very costly.
I ran into with Paragon, one of CNS basketball players.
Yeah.
During the pandemic at the Pennsylvania Turnpike rest stop. He was going to Philly for a basketball tournament. I was with one of my kids for one of their tournaments. Ran into him at the Turnpike.
Yeah.
Same thing. Had to drive out of state to play.
Well, and what did you do for that? Did you send out a thing saying, hey, guys and girls, if you're going to go play, just be safe? Did you have to put anything out?
No, because that really had nothing to do, with us. He was playing with some sort of AAU team.
And you can't police that. They're allowed to do what they want to do. And because that's what Bryce did.
We were basically, everything was shut down. Even workouts, we had nothing
at
that point.
And I don't know if you could take an opinion at the time, but did you want to encourage, if they could go play safely, did you want to encourage that? Did you want to say, hey, we're shut down in New York, but if you have the means to play, just follow protocol? How do you handle that as a director of athletics?
Well, I really didn't, because they're going to do what they wanted to do. Obviously, I was doing it with my own kid. So obviously I wanted the kids to play. I would have rather have them do it in our backyard than have to travel to Philadelphia every weekend or Erie or wherever it was. Obviously I supported them playing.
Yeah.
And I know, even though they were in Pennsylvania, they had guidelines, so they were still following some rules. But there were times where AAU teams from Syracuse were facing each other in Philadelphia, so all that travel, all that hotel money that was spent by parents to do that, and they couldn't even do it in their backyard.
Well, and was that hard for? I talked to you about crazy things. Speaking here with CNS athletics director of athletics, however people want to say it. Tim Bednarski here with us at Cafe Kubal. Of course, I'm here with my honey and brown sugar chai, which I found out from the staff here. That chai is one of the things in the country that has a shortage, but they ordered it to make sure it was here for me. So I guess I always said I wanted to be a guy I wanted to be somebody who had a little bit of pull in the world, right? So it's nice to know that. I said when there's a car waiting outside for me and I'm able to be brought home and whatever, but I will take this when you walk in. I have to have Tony Stark moments. Those are the things I need to have. So the goatee needs to do me justice. But of course, myself, James Sator of Wake Up Call. Every month we're on site, on location at Cafe Kubal and throughout your community. This is the first time we're at the drive-through, the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road, Sweetheart Corners, which is nostalgic to everybody here. They grew up here, and we know it for generations. It was the place that used to make all my birthday cakes as a kid. So very happy not only that Cafe Kubal has their first drive-through, but of course that it's at this location, if anywhere, because Sweetheart Corners is so near and dear to my heart, my grandparents, my parents, and to a lot of people in the community. Tim, for to kind of going off of what we were talking about, kind of the craziness of it all, was one of the craziest things the fact that all 50 states were essentially this was like Europe. It was like we're all on the same continent, but we were all a different country. Florida said, not only will we play, but you can bring all of your teams here. We will take anything. One of the races, I remember I went down in February, and I went to Disney. I promised myself in 2021, since I always travel, and I went nowhere in 2020. Like I said, in 2021, I will travel. On January 1st, 2021, I was at the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, and I was watching Georgia and Cincinnati, and shout out to Gary Stoken and the entire team. Shout out to Matt and everybody out there. Great staff, great people, and Matt Garvey, shout out to you. So we're out. So I traveled immediately, but in February, I get down there, and I go to pick up my rental car, and it's super busy. And I went up to the guy and I said, what happened? And he's like, literally, California was supposed to have a race. And 2 days before, they canceled it, and Florida said, bring it here. So, like, they shifted the whole country and all the fans and said, hey, if you want to go to this race, you got to, go to Orlando or whatever. And it was in the area. But Florida was open. Arizona was open. My buddy who was coach down in Texas, I said, is there coronavirus in Texas? He said, hell no. And so Texas was open. My guy, Riley Leonard, down in Alabama, is a quarterback down there. It's going to Duke. I talked to Riley, and he said people are going to the beaches, like it's all open. So a lot of places in the South, and then your New Jerseys, and everybody kind of did their own thing. Was that, as a director of athletics, crazy to you that New York was like nothing, Florida was everything, and then some other places were somewhere in the middle? Like, I remember in Rochester, they had like a hair salon was open in this town, and 10 minutes down the road on the same main street, that was a different town, and that one had to be closed according to coronavirus laws. So, I mean, was that the weirdest thing to you, that cities, towns were different, states were different?
Very frustrating.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Even local things, county to county, were different.
Yeah.
We did that high-risk sport testing in Onondaga County. Well, Oswego County did not provide those tests and did not have to do that. Well, we played them.
Yeah.
So when we were playing, we were testing, they weren't. Some schools made rules that they wouldn't play those schools that weren't testing. Then going back to what you're saying, I believe we could have had a successful fall in the fall of 2020 and had the boys volleyball, football, cheer, and girls swim that got postponed to that fall too in March because other states did it. There was no facts that came out that there was a spread of coronavirus through football. I have a friend that coaches high school in Ohio, and they had a season. Yeah. They did get shut down because somebody tested positive, but that would happen. But it was something from outside. Kid caught it, and that seemed to be the trend of how it would happen.
Yeah, they would seem to be individuals' decisions outside of the bubble.
Yeah.
And I mean, the NBA, they did their bubble in the Wide World of Sports at ESPN. And there was another thing. They said, if you listen to the media, Florida had a meteor hit it. It was on fire. There was a zombie apocalypse. And on top of all that, Thanos from Marvel came and snapped his fingers only in Florida. And yet, ESPN Wide World of Sports functions, and the NBA has no issues. And MLS had initial issues when teams flew in. 2 teams had to leave. No issues. So they proved that it worked. TBT, before anybody proved that the bubble worked, they didn't get any credit. They deserve credit, and I'm giving it to you. TBT, before the NBA, you did it right. And so they proved that the bubble worked, and then the NFL was the first non-bubble. And then Major League Baseball was everything that worked, they did the opposite. And the Marlins at one point had played no games. The Cardinals were 15 games back. And, eventually things start to even out. But everybody kind of figured out that it was outside. How did the Marlins get it? Oh, they went to a club. It was it was all leaving your... If you weren't in an actual bubble like the NBA and the MLS, where you're supposed to stay on a campus, so to speak, you were supposed to be in a team bubble. And if you didn't do that, that's where people saw issue. But college football got me. When Trevor Lawrence, now my quarterback, when he was off campus, I don't know, he went to see his girlfriend or something, whatever. So he gets test positive, right? But he doesn't show any symptoms or whatever. He tests positive, he's out for 2 games, including Notre Dame and South Bend. He's on the field with a mask on at the end of the game, and the Notre Dame 10,000 fans, whoever was allowed in there, jump over the railings and storm the field, not wearing masks, And I'm standing there looking at Trevor Lawrence with all these kids running by him going, this man had to miss 2 games. He has to sit here and wear a mask, and 10,000 people are running by him, and none of these people have the virus. And I couldn't, for the life of me, see that and say that some of this isn't smoke and mirrors, because it was a real virus. But how can Notre Dame have this many fans, and how it's like a spitting in Trevor's face, like these fans are in his face jumping up and down. They're like, well, Dan, they were all masked. They were not socially distanced when you storm a field, and they weren't masked. So, well, they were all tested on the way in. I'm like, okay. But to me, it was like there were times where it just didn't make sense.
Absolutely. I would not disagree one bit.
Some of it felt like a Hollywood movie, and some of it felt like reality. And I think, those who erred on the side of caution, for the most part, we were okay. But the thing that was weird is I didn't get the virus, but I got thrush, which is like you get like white spots in your throat, and it's not strep, but your throat gets kind of dry and stuff. And I said, how can I get that if none of us are, breathing each other's air? And what they said is, if I was sick or I had bacteria, I was putting it into my mask and breathing it back in. And so I had to I went to the doctor, and that was another thing about this time. When you go to the doctor, everything was corona. I walked into one of the urgent care things, and they're like, do you have a cough? I mean, I'm laughing because this is how ridiculous. Like, do you have a cough? And I was thinking, she's like, it's probably corona. And she's like, is your throat dry? It's probably corona. I was like, is it a Tuesday? It's probably corona. And I was like, can you so they tested me for corona, nothing. They tested me for strep, nothing. And they gave me pills for strep, and they gave me these tablets for thrush. And the doctor, after 2 miscues, the doctor said, why don't you just take these both, and we're going to see if anything grows in the strep culture and all that. And nothing did. But she said, just take them, because, whatever it is, let's get rid of it. But to be sick in the last year and a half, I mean, I have sinus issues. I mean, I have allergies. To be sick at all, you were afraid to go anywhere. And I remember, I know students in high schools obviously here, and they said, if we sneeze in the hallway, we think someone with a hazmat suit's going to jump on us. So, I mean, everybody was terrified to have allergies. And I think that was another part of the craziness is what about allergies? What about sinus infections? What about the common cold? If you coughed in a public place, it was corona, according to the world, and that wasn't the case.
No, and I know in school, if they went to the health office and they had runny nose or any of the symptoms, they were sent home for a test. Just that's the policy, and we had to hold to it.
And I think that's why your athletes decided to learn at home, because I know I say Fran Tortora that plays for the girls lacrosse team. She said I'm home learning, because I'm not going to put myself in a situation. She's like, God forbid something happens, not even me, but if I'm by somebody who has it and I'm out 2 weeks, it's like, that's, to some people, that's, especially with football being so short, that's your season. It's like half the season. So, I think the athletes were so afraid to be a part of the student body. I mean, look at Syracuse. Football team did everything they were supposed to do. They allow the regular student body back on campus, and what do the freshmen do? They all congregate together on campus, and I said to the football players, what did you do? Did you get mad? And they're like, yeah, of course we got upset, because we're sitting here in a bubble trying to follow the rules, and these people are out here, and if what they do shuts down campus, do we get sent home? Does our season get closed off? And Duke had to cancel their women's basketball season, and other teams played. So, I think everybody was kind of concerned that when they could play, what if somebody around them was not smart and did something stupid, and it affected the whole team? And I know that was a concern of Fran, is she's like, if I go to school and if somebody's sick and I walk by them in the hallway and contact tracing, then I'm going to miss a couple games, and I can't afford to. I'm a captain. So
yeah, it makes it a bit in the classroom, just sitting one seat over, you know, and and that person tested positive, she probably would have been sent home for 10-day quarantine. And that going back to the frustration.
Yeah.
Those were some of them were frustrating of why they were quarantining, like whether it be a team or kids, and it came down to time that they were exposed, and location, inside, outside, were they masked, were they not masked, but just a lot of inconsistencies.
Did you have protocol for that? Like, you have to quarantine this long if you were unmasked inside, unmasked outside? Did you was there different?
So it wasn't our decision. It went to the county. We had to provide the information of the exposure, who, when, where, how long.
So it was by how the minutes that they were exposed, whether they were inside or outside.
Mass.
And that dictated
Distance.
A week, a few days.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And that even happened, in the spring. Whether it be a softball, a baseball team. If we had a couple that there was an exposure, a lot of times again outside, but how long were they with the team? They go back 48 hours.
Yeah.
Were they in the dugout? Were they masked? Those type of things.
How did you feel the spring went when you had fall too, right? When football and other sports got to play, like you're talking about volleyball. So when sports get to come out and they get to play, and then, how did you deal with the overlap in the whole, football's playing in March, but you're getting lacrosse ready? How did you deal with that?
That was the hardest part as far as the athletic piece, was the overlap, just for field space, gym space. We probably, hindsight, shouldn't have had that overlap. But we wanted to make sure each season got a certain amount of weeks to play.
Yeah.
There were no championships up till spring. So winter and fall too didn't have any sectional play, or nobody had state play, but then spring did. So that was extremely difficult, having that overlap, because one, you had more teams, more possibility of exposure. We had to make sure, if a team came into the turf or the gym, they came in one door, things were cleaned, and then out. In between basketball, JV varsity games, we were wiping down the seats with the handy bacteria wipes that we picked up from school, and so things like that.
When you had to clean, what do you, bleacher-wise, did you have a team just go and wipe everything down, or?
No, our custodial staff through the district, they did a phenomenal job throughout the whole school year. There were times where there was transition periods where they were coming in, which is not the norm during the day to clean.
Yeah.
They had some of the bus drivers, once the kids were delivered, that were coming to help clean the door handles throughout the buildings.
How did you monitor to make sure everything was wiped down? How did you do that?
Well, it's just it became a system and a normal kind of part of the game,
Yeah.
So I think basketball, because that was the biggest thing. We did do a lot outside. Maybe in the stadium a little bit.
Yeah.
But wiping down the chairs, and then the custodial staff would come in with the 360, Clark 360, and spray the bleachers down and push them in, and on to the next day.
Yeah, I think that was the confusing part too. I'm a moviegoer. You like movies? Do you go to movies?
No, I prefer them. I like watching movies, but at home. Yeah.
Okay. So you're you'll buy the premiere access on Disney Plus? Is that what?
I got the Netflix.
Okay, Netflix and all that. You have HBO? HBO
Yes.
Max? Okay. So, do you like superhero stuff? Zack Snyder's Justice League?
No, I know what you're talking about. But
okay. So, my question to the powers that be in New York State, which I'll leave unnamed, but my question to them during this whole thing was, if I can go to a restaurant where tables move and chairs move and they have to wipe them down, why can't I go to a movie theater where everything is stationary? And there's, let's be real, they were supposed to wipe those down all the time, and I'm sure they didn't. But like, when you went to a movie theater and you sat in the lounge, right? You get up, the 4 o'clock movie ends before the 7 o'clock. There's a half an hour window. They're supposed to wipe down the seat. So I couldn't for the life of me figure out how theaters were closed for a year when, if a restaurant, it's just a seat. And the seat doesn't move, and you,
It's no different.
It's no different. And so it was killing me, because I love, one of my hobbies is, and I love screenwriting and I love storytelling, and I've been able to work inside of a movie before, which was really cool. And so I love the movies for a billion reasons, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out why I wasn't allowed to go to the movies. And when Movie Tavern opened here, I love Movie Tavern. When it opened, I also love Cinemark, and they need to come here now that we have like 2 theaters. But when Movie Tavern opened the first week, I told myself, I don't even care what I see. I just have to go. And I remember it was me, because you had to be so spaced out. So it was me, a couple, and maybe like one other couple. So there was like 7 or 8 people in the theater. And I just went 2 weeks ago or so. What did I go see? I saw Black Widow, but I saw Cruella. And I went there. There's no social distancing anymore. None at all. It was like overnight. And I sat with a family, and they brought me the ladies' food, and they brought her and they kept messing up the food because they thought it was like the same family. But I just remember sitting there going like, the theater should have been the first thing to open. It's the easiest thing to wipe down. Like, I understand with the gyms, they're like, there's so many people using stuff that you have to like wipe it every second, but like, what if people are moving quick? But with a theater, you come in, you sit for 2 hours, you get up, there's like an hour gap, and then you sit again. I mean, it seems like, you could literally have a sloth wipe down that stuff, and it would have worked. So,
well, they even have those machines where you spray.
Right. So in New York State, that was probably my biggest pet peeve, was why are the theaters not, besides high school athletes, which broke my heart because I know them, I selfishly was like, how are the theaters not open? I know you don't care because you like being at home, but
we go maybe once or twice a year, but
okay. What do you bring the kids to see?
Usually if there's something that they came out that they want to see. Usually my wife and I will go. We will go to the movie tavern once or twice. We'll get a gift card or something that'll get us out there.
So, but what do you watch? What are the movies that you watch?
I'm trying to think the last time we went. It's been a while, obviously, with Corona.
But even being at home, like, what type of movie do you like?
Well, we've gotten into a lot of the Netflix during Corona too.
Okay.
Trying to think.
They just keep pumping them out. They used to have like 1 or 2 original Netflix movies. Now there's like 1,000. So much.
So that we watched a couple. One back when Corona was that Virgin River.
Okay.
And then In the Dark. And now they're coming out with the new ones recently. We started watching that All-American show. It's kind of like 90210, but
yeah.
It's football oriented, so it kind of caught my attention. Once you start watching that Bridgerton,
yeah.
And then I guess they stopped making them. I ended up watching that.
There's going to be another season of that. Did you see You? That's
no.
It's about a serial killer who like attracts women to him. Like, and the thing that's crazy about it is women love the show.
So I'm not going to the movies with you.
No, I didn't. This is the thing. I never knew about it and I never watched it. And multiple women told me to watch this thing. And I'm like, why would you like this movie? Like, he preys on women in the movie, but they're in the TV show. And it's got 2 seasons on Netflix. But that's the thing. It's like Lifetime. Lifetime says television for women, and it's only bad things happening to women in the shows. But that was the same thing with You, is like, all of these women were like, you have to watch this. And I was like, why would you like this? No men told me to watch it. And then I watched it, and I was like, oh, it does kind of get you going, and it keeps you connected. But then I said to my mom and my aunt, I'm like, you guys should watch it. And they fell in love with the show, and I was like, this is insane. But it was supposed to come out in 2021 with season 3, and it hasn't yet. But that's a good show based on a book. And then
The You.
It just called You, Y-O-U.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's with this guy who was in Gossip Girl, which I was forced to watch in college. But so he's in the show, but there's a twist in season number 2. I'm not gonna tell you, but it's very good. And when it twists at the end, it makes you think like now you got to see it, but there was no production going on. So, but now Marvel's kind of back to it, but you don't seem like a Marvel guy.
No.
24 movies in. Have you seen any of them?
No.
None of them.
No.
Not even Captain America.
No.
Wow. So you watch like Netflix originals?
Yeah, but I mean, we'll watch all the movies that come out, but like recently there hasn't been a lot of movies made.
No. When you watch Fast and the Furious 9?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of them.
Okay. They're all the same.
Yeah.
None of them make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, and they want to bring Paul Walker back now, who passed away in real life. They want to bring him back for the 10th one, allegedly. I don't know how they're going to CGI.
What I was looking forward to, and it got kind of stopped, was Top Gun.
Oh, yeah. Top Gun was supposed to come out. I mean, A Quiet Place, the first one came out. The second one was supposed to come out right at the beginning of Corona in like March or April. And they held it, and they just brought it out. And it was good. It wasn't as good as the first one. A Quiet Place. And with John Krasinski and his wife, Emily Blunt. So those were actually good. But, I mean, you kind of never know what you were going to get because some of them were able to go through production and some of them weren't. But now they're, like Marvel's cranking them out because Marvel lost almost 2 years of doing this. But are you like action movie, romantic comedy? What is the wife like?
I'm trying to think of like some movies we've recently watched, but we've kind of...
Any Robin Williams movies?
It's been a while because we're in lacrosse season, so we're
Yeah.
traveling every weekend and night. Yeah, I mean anything we'll watch. I don't do the sci-fi and
No Star Wars?
no. I mean, as a kid, I liked the first
Okay.
3, but haven't really got into those.
All right.
So yeah, romantic comedies, any of those.
Have you seen Kicking and Screaming
No, I have
with
not.
Will Ferrell?
No, he's good. I like him.
It's on HBO Max. He becomes a soccer coach. You need to watch it.
Okay.
That's one you need to watch. I mean, I'm sure you saw Remember the Titans. So that's a movie that many people have seen. And so I'm trying to think. Kicking and Screaming is good. Get Hard with Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart. That's a good movie.
I like Kevin Hart too. He's fun.
And who's in that one? The Rock. Those are good. Ride Along with Ice Cube and Kevin Hart. So I'm trying to think of kind of like what's in my role. Liar Liar is a throwback to the 90s with Jim Carrey. Did you see that one?
No.
That's when Jim Carrey's a lawyer and he can't lie for 24 hours.
I remember the original.
Yeah, so that's a good one.
Yeah.
I mean, like there's ones that have kind of started to resurface. Night at the Museum, the second Night at the Museum that has Ben Stiller and Robin Williams and all that. There's a lot of one-liners in that I didn't realize how funny they were until I was re-exposed to the movie. And so there's a lot of characters in that make it funny. But I don't know, you kind of, if you go on Netflix now and you look at their top 10, there's movies on there that are like 20 years old that people didn't watch, and they're like the second watched movie in the world right now. Like Accepted, the fake college, where they create a fake college that's a comedy. That movie came out, I want to say like 15 years ago. I thought it was good. I don't know anybody that watched it. And then I went on to Netflix like 2 months ago, and it was in the top 10. And I don't understand how like people find what they find, you know? Like, who's looking that up, and then somebody else looks it up. But I don't know, Netflix, I get lost in Netflix because I'm one of those people that goes on and takes an hour and a half and then you can't pick a movie. Because I can't, it's like I have to write down what I see in the moment. But my aunt, my uncle, Papa Joe and Mary, shout out to you both, they get it. Like, they can turn it on and they know where to go, they know the movies to pick, they know all that stuff. But I'm horrible at selecting movies.
Yeah, usually it's word of mouth too, like something new that came out.
Yeah.
That somebody would have shared, and then I'll say, oh, okay, I'll watch it.
Yeah.
You know, especially the series like in Netflix. That's how you get to watch it. Like you, I'm gonna check that out just because you had mentioned it.
Well, I'm going to tell you, like, you would think you wouldn't like it, but you actually do. Like, you would think it's not that great, but I can promise you that there's actually there's good parts in it. For you know, and I think what's going to happen is your wife's going to get hooked on it because for some reason women love the show, and then you're going to watch it, and then you're going to tell me like it was crazy, but it was good. Because I remember I watched it and I was like, why? I mean, it's like this male preying on women, but women love the show. It's like it trended to the #1 thing on Netflix. And I saw Bird Box. I saw that on Netflix. The movie that everybody was talking about that was freaky and weird. I saw a movie called I can't remember the name. It's not called Silence. It's called. It's about a woman who's deaf, and this guy comes to her house to kill her. And the whole time we're watching him, and she doesn't know he's there right away, and she can never hear him. So she has to and there's a twist at the end. But I can't remember the name of the movie. I have to get you the name of it. But it's you would never think of a movie like that, where he just randomly finds her living in the woods in a house, and he preys on her, but she can't hear him coming. And it's such an interesting movie. But I like thrillers, but this is what I do. I get really amped up. I'm like, I'm gonna watch a scary movie, and then right when I'm about to watch it, I'm like, no, I'm not. So Pet Sematary, I won't Stephen King. I get excited, and then I go to turn it on, and then I shut it off in the opening credits.
Yeah, see, I get all amped up, and then I can't fall asleep at night.
Well, that's the thing. I like a thrill, but it depends on what. Suspense is okay, but horror, those type of possession movies, I'm not watching exorcism movies or anything like that. Do your kids? Do they watch with you guys, or do they have their own thing?
Well, obviously it depends on the movie, as far as the rating, but sometimes they will. Sometimes they'll go do their own thing while we go down and watch it in the basement.
So what are the dates like? You've had a year and a half. How do you date your wife? What do you do?
It's usually dinner. Our favorite place is Francesca's.
Oh, okay.
And we actually just went there for our 18th anniversary.
So congratulations.
Yeah, thanks.
The one that's Liverpool?
No,
the other one. Okay, the one that's downtown. Yeah. 18 years.
18 years. Yeah.
Good for you. What's the secret? Everybody always says, "What's the secret to a happy marriage?" What's the secret?
Communication.
Okay. I want to answer your phone right now because it's Coach Klein.
Coach Klein. He's texted me a couple times as we've been speaking.
Oh, okay.
So something must be up.
Yeah, something's going down. Maybe he's watching. But yeah, shout out to Dave Klein if you're watching us right now. We'll talk to you soon.
So I don't know if you saw, we are opening the Carrier Dome versus Clifton High School out of New Jersey.
Yeah.
So we're playing on September 3rd at 8, and Liverpool is facing St. Francis at 5 o'clock before us.
And that's a obviously a beautiful thing to have the opportunity to be able to open and to do that. What's it for you to go back to the Dome?
It's good. Some of these kids haven't been there yet. Some have. Obviously, it's always good to be playing in the Dome in November versus September or August for the kickoff classic, or that. But it's always a great experience. They do a wonderful job. I haven't been there since the renovation. So
it's really, to tell you. The opening in the Dome at the top, the lighting, the way they can manipulate the lighting, and I think the ribbon board. And then it's all great, but the system, the sound and the system and the way that they have kind of curved the audio or the video boards and the video boards in the corners can be different than the long, and then the inside can be different than the outside. They can manipulate like each screen, and I can honestly tell you, like my experience, it would probably be hard as a player to not just stare up at the thing the whole time. So I think they did a really good job. Really do.
That's good.
I think the kids will like
seeing
it.
Yeah. So hopefully we're there in September, and then hopefully we're back in November.
Sectionals not existing for fall sports. Kids that I talked to said to me they didn't understand it because they were going to play the same teams that they had to play in the regular season. Make sense of it or don't make sense of it for us here this morning. The fact that there could be no sectionals when sectionals were the teams they were already playing.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that went down. It may have been financially at first, because the section picks up the tab for most of the games, the officials, the workers. But it was done in the spring successfully. A little different. Normally after the quarterfinals, the semis, and the finals are at a neutral site. We went to the higher seed.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit different. Thinking about the girls lacrosse as an example, got the opportunity to win it. Long time since it has been, which I'm sure you'll talk about, but the sad thing is they didn't get the opportunity to then advance to the state tournament, which is a lot of fun for the kids.
Yeah.
If they ever do get to that level, to continue on and try to win a state championship. So obviously super proud of those girls for their first championship since 1997 for the section, but they didn't get the opportunity. So hopefully they get back there again this year, and we'll have the state tournament.
To not have sectionals for the fall, but to have it for the spring, how difficult was that for you as the director of athletics to have to, lay down the rule and tell everybody, hey, we can't do this, and then, to see their friends play it, or if they play two sports, to know, okay, well, I can't do this for football, but I can do it for lacrosse. I mean, it was beautiful to see sectionals for anything, but, I mean, what was the pain of it to have to see it for some and not others?
It wasn't so much a big deal because at first they were grateful. Everyone was grateful we were playing. And, from the get-go, they knew, okay, we have 14 games. This is what it's going to be. And then as time went on, things were getting better. And the section made an announcement we would have sectionals. So, it's unfortunate that the fall two and winter didn't have them, but they did know going in that they weren't going to have them. And then things opened up and we were able to have them in the spring.
Does it feel stolen? I mean, if a team has a bad season and there's no sectionals or states, then, whatever. But did you feel like something was stolen away without having sectionals for some and states for like CNS girls lacrosse, because you could have potentially hoisted a trophy for states? Do you feel that kind of lost opportunity?
Absolutely, and I think there were 4 undefeated teams this year. That's hard to do, especially in our league. Whatever sport it is, and those kids, those teams didn't get the opportunity to advance. Boys volleyball, field hockey was undefeated. They would have probably made a run for a state title in the fall, but they knew once the regular season was over, it was over. And I do feel they did lose out. And that goes to everything, even just the day-to-day in school. These students, the seniors especially, lost a lot. You think about your high school, junior and senior year, how much fun you had, things you did in school, different events, pep rallies, this, that, the other thing.
We never did anything this is what I didn't like. I went to a private school, and you have to pay as opposed to public, and to pay the amount of money we did, we never went on field trips, hardly anywhere. We went on like 2 major field trips from 7th to 12th grade, and I see like schools go to Disney, and we went like up the road, we went around the corner, we went to Gettysburg in 8th grade, which is great, and really eerie because we went on the battlefield, but we didn't go anywhere.
Could have been financial. And then even some of the things that ours do, it's fundraised.
Yeah. But I feel like some people get to have a lot of fun, and we didn't go anywhere. But like when I went to Our Lady of Pompeii, we did a lot of cool stuff. Like we had a lot of fun in elementary school. And
but even your day-to-day interaction.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. I'm just being better. I just because my cousins would call me from Pennsylvania, like we're going to Disney, and I'm like, what? I didn't even get to go. We didn't even go to the Civic Center in high school, but. I remember at Our Lady of Pompeii, we always went to the Civic Center for Rudolph every winter, and that was awesome. And we just took a lot of trips. We went to the zoo all the time. And I remember my mom was always a chaperone, and she was the cool chaperone. And so, like, you weren't allowed to have any food, and my mom would always, like, sneak me food. You weren't allowed to have toys. My mom would bring me toys. Like, she was the cool mom, always has been. And I remember there was like 2 or 3 field trips she couldn't go on in like 6 years. And she cried and she apologized to me. She's like, I'm so sorry I couldn't come. And I was like some parents don't come to any. And she made it to like almost every single one of them. And when you would have to go on the bus at the end of the day and you'd have to go back to school for an hour, she would pick me up and I could go home early. Like go to the pool and stuff. So I was spoiled. And but then in high school I do it like we didn't go anywhere. But the thing that I thought about was good, bad, or indifferent. At least I had high school. You know what I mean? Like if I had the experience of going to prom, I had the experience of going to a ball, I had the experience of going to a pep rally, or being in class. The only thing that I thought of in my head was like, did I study enough for this test? Not, am I going to be allowed to go in the building? So. I think what you're saying is these kids had their sports stolen from them, their locker room, their hallway, their classroom, their outside, their lunchtime. Like they got their adolescence taken, and nobody can give you back the year that you were 14 years old in high school. And I think, yes, we didn't know how to handle this, but I just feel like the powers that be owe these kids more than what they got, especially in New York State. And it breaks my heart that it was taken from them.
Yeah, I just don't know what that would be.
I don't even know what to do.
We tried to do things as best we could under the guidelines we were given.
Yeah, you did what you had to do.
Yeah. But even from, the principal too, trying to make the graduation or the ball, this year they had them. They tried to make it as special. It wasn't normal, but as special as they could.
Did you try to retroactively when things opened up? Did you try to welcome back, seniors that didn't get to play? Or did the school try to do something to say like, hey, we're having a ball this year. If you missed out last year, you can come back? Or did they try to have a ceremony? Like, was there anything done for the people that couldn't have anything?
No, because we're still restricted on numbers.
Yeah.
We were, until June. I don't know what it's going to look like in the fall, but graduation was the first time that they had it at the stadium. But they were limited to four tickets per student.
Was everybody spaced out? Okay. Because I know some of the graduations happen at night. And I mean, I think that's the weird part too, is like graduating and not being able to walk. I mean, could you imagine not going through your hallway, not going to the classroom, not going to the cafeteria, not going to the field or the court, not going to the dance, and then not walking across with a cap and gown? Like, could you go back in time and erase any of that from your history?
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't the greatest, it's just like, how do you erase it?
So June of 20, graduation was a drive-through. They drove through. They had a time slot. They drove through and got their diploma. They got out, got a picture, and
Yeah.
but that's when things were really bad.
Were there things that
Or limited.
Yeah. I mean, was CNS able to, obviously everybody follows the guidelines, but within the guidelines, did you guys try to do anything different or more if you could? Did you try to like pump it up, put some names on the board? Or, I mean, were there things, did you try to get creative, I guess is what I'm saying?
Yes. And right before graduation, they lifted the capacity amount, so there were supposed to be 2 ceremonies, and they brought it into one, so they could all graduate with their class, which I think was the first time they'd been together in many years. I'm trying to think. I usually go to graduation. I wasn't there this year because I had to travel for lacrosse for my daughter. But they did use the video board and putting the images in, and they had camera drone on some of the for the photos and stuff. So it was definitely different, but it was also new because no one's ever graduated at the stadium.
Yeah.
So they're the first.
The team, I want to go to the girls lacrosse team before I let you go. CNS North Stars Athletics Director Tim Bednarski, myself, Dan Tortora here of Wake Up Call, on-site on location at Cafe Kubal. Every single month we're in the community. You can find us all over the community. We're always at Cafe Kubal once a month on site. And Cafe Kubal is our studio partner, so they're always with us in the Wake Up Call studios. We're here for the first time at their drive-thru that just opened very recently here on Sweetheart Corners, corner of Route 11 and Taft Road, down the road from Cicero North Syracuse High School. And just minutes away, so all my CNS people, you now have a drive-thru and an indoor-outdoor to come enjoy and have some fun at. The girls lacrosse team, I'm there, and they talk about something that you mentioned. Semis and finals not being on a neutral. And what I was hearing from the student athletes were, okay, well, why does it have to be at the higher seed? Why can't we just have it at a school who's, not playing? Like, go to Fowler, like go somewhere where it's neutral, because neither team has the advantage of this being their home field. How did you assess that? I mean, obviously CNS handled their business, and the girls team was on the road all the way through and won 1-1. So they handled their business, did their job. What did you think of it, though, to know that, I mean, obviously if the higher seed was CNS, it's to your benefit, but did you like that? You couldn't play in the dome, but was there a fight by directors of athletics in the community for Section 3? Did you guys talk about, like, hey, we should have these games on another high school field as opposed to the higher seed?
I would say normally that would be the case, but under the circumstances of this year, and again, I think it came down to financials, as far as having to hire people at Fowler to run a game that it has nothing to do with. So those people need to be paid as they're collecting money for their ticket and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think that's the logistics of it, and for me, we play at West Jenny all the time. We play at Beagle all the time. So yes, it's away, but you're used to playing there. You've played there, many times throughout your career. I mean, even like for lacrosse, they've probably played on that field at middle school and even the ULA at some point or has been there. So yes, it's home field advantage, but really, you gotta. It's time to play. It's time to play. And sometimes I think it's easier because they just get on the bus. They're focused. There's no other distractions. And obviously for the girls lacrosse, they played their best 2 games, those last 2 games.
Yeah, and I think seeing them play the way that they did, and I mean, double overtime, and I know I'm biased because she's my little sister, but can you speak to the efforts of, Fran Tortora and Molly Malchinoff, because the 2 captains of this team saw this team go 1-15 and then have no season and then champions. I mean, that is from 0 to hero. So.
So, a lot of things in that. One, unselfish play. I saw a big difference in them and the team with playing together. The focus and drive was there. The leadership. Things go wrong, there wasn't the finger pointing. You know, the culture changed, and that's a credit as well to the new coaching staff, and getting these girls to buy in the system and them believing in each other. So it was a joy to watch, having been on that other side of 1 and 15, but yet knowing the talent is there, and then you know, them figuring it out themselves and disciplined enough to stay focused. And you know, we had some young girls on the varsity team that they brought along. So kudos to Fran, Molly, and the rest of the girls.
How proud are you to go through a year and a half of craziness and to know that CNS is a champion of something?
It's always good to win. It's always good to see a team holding that banner, but what's even more special about the girls lacrosse is last one was 1997. And I don't know if you know the story, but game winner was Mackenzie Prentice, coach's daughter. She's a 9th grader. Coach Steph Prentice was on that 1997 team. CNS won the state title in 95 and 96. They won the section in 97, but lost in the state tournament. So the last championship was 1997. That's a long time, and a lot of good lacrosse players have come through here, gone on to big schools playing. So it's been a long time coming, and extremely proud of the girls lacrosse program.
And you seeing success and seeing, like you said, seeing a banner and all of that. To see, you were at the game, I was at the game. The nail biting of Fran had the last 2 goals to force overtime, and she went low and she went high, and I went and watched the playback of the high one, and I don't understand how she scored still, but that's her. And so I see that, then we see overtime, then you see double overtime, and you see this strike to come across and then pass it at the last possible second and have that shot at the goal. That victory was insane. And in that moment, in that arena, as I was saying, to kind of bring it all back together, here at Cafe Kubal for Wake Up Call, Dan Tortora, CNS, Director of Athletics, Tim Bednarski, and myself, Dan Tortora. That game made me feel like nothing happened. No corona, nothing. All I saw was 2 avid fan bases, loud as all get out, people on the fence, crying, cheering, going nuts. Was this a good call? Was this a bad call? There was, giving up a goal and then having the goalkeeper block out. I mean, what CNS did in the final minutes of that game were incredible. 9 seconds left of regulation, just everything that they channeled to do it. You had to be such a proud director of athletics to know that everybody in that arena, in that sitting on those bleachers, was losing it. I mean, we were all on edge, and I love all these kids in the community, and of course, and I said when I walked in, I'm like, I'm wearing my Tortora jersey. If you get mad at me for supporting my sister, I don't know what to tell you. But like, I can't imagine how you must have felt. There has to be some type of jubilation and like a breath of fresh air that you went through so much, and these girls had everything stolen from them, and then they came back and won it all.
It was phenomenal, like I said, and I believe it was double overtime. We won the draw, and we lost the ball, and they got it. This isn't how it's going to end, is it? Yeah. Defense held through, and then the ending was the ending, and it was perfect. It was perfect. in the middle of the season they had a couple losses that they may, should have, would have, could have won. But that's a championship team. They regrouped. Like I said earlier, extremely proud, and the direction the program is headed. The JV squad was 15-0, so there's some talent coming up, and hopefully they have started something that's going to be really great for the girls lacrosse program. And you talked about the ending of the game. I had to run out of there at the end because I want to give credit where credit's due too, to get over to Gillette for our varsity softball team, who was an undefeated team, 16-0, 15-0, 17-0, I think, playing Liverpool. But you were talking about the crowd. That looked like normalcy again.
Yeah.
It was all the way around the fence. Just a great atmosphere, exciting game. Looking to credit to Liverpool, they fought all the way through to the end, and our girls were able to pull it out. So we had two championships in that same day. It was a fun Saturday.
Yeah, baseball had pushed too. I mean,
our boys track team won the section as well.
Yeah, so you got track, you have softball, you have girls lacrosse. You had a lot to be proud of, and you had a lot of teams that got close. And seeing those fans in the stands, I can speak to the girls lacrosse game in Beeville. There were a lot of CNS fans there, and they were loud. And it was on the road. So I would imagine as a director of athletics, it not only was good to see fans in the stands, but it was good to see fans in the away stands, because it was that Beeville, it was pretty split. You saw red and you saw blue, and I thought that it was a really cool. And what I heard from some people there is they said this, and like you said, there was still capacity things and regulations. They said this looked like a college girls, women's lacrosse game. That, as far as the fan base, but I thought CNS showed up to Beeville for sure.
Absolutely, I almost feel like we had more fans, especially when the cheering was going on from the far side. You could hear the north sides there.
Oh, they were loud. So, in closing here, I want to do a rapid fire. So,
forgot how this works.
So we can talk about anything, which we have throughout the show, but we can literally discuss anything. You get 3 questions, I get 3 questions. We can ask each other anything in the world. Doesn't have to do with sports, or it could. But I'm going to let you go first. We'll go back and forth. CNS Director of Athletics, Tim Bednarski, Dan Tortora, Wake Up Call, on-site on location. We are hanging out at Cafe Kubal, drive-through, corner of Route 11 and Taft Road, here on Sweetheart Corners, down the road from CNS. And this is the first time Tim is here with me, and it's the first time you and I have gotten to sit in public in a long time. So beyond anything, I want to thank Matt Goddard and the team at Cafe Kubal, but I also want to thank you and CNS for being willing to do this with me today.
Well, thanks for having me, number one, but thanks for all you do for high school athletics as well. I've seen your show on for the Wildcat and with the hometown pub for Liverpool.
And Coley's.
Coley's now? Okay.
Yeah, Pizza Man, yeah.
Yep. So appreciate you supporting our athletes as well as the other Section 3 schools.
Yeah, and I think my record stands as I've had more CNS in my studio than any other team. So Bryce was just there. Yeah. And Fran, she can camp there anytime she wants to. She keeps me on edge. We did the jersey swap. So I wear her CNS Tortora 21, and she wears my Dance Tour Broadcast Media shirt. But the funny thing is, anybody that knows me, my number's 21. So when I wear Tortora 21, everybody thinks it's like a customized jersey for me. But it just so happens to be Fran as well. And hopefully she'll be wearing 21 at Stony Brook. So. But she's got another year and more to hopefully win for CNS. So we'll see. I did want to ask you right before rapid fire, though, because we didn't talk about it. Amidst all of this, Eric Smith finished up for CNS girls basketball, and we know that the teams that he put together and the championships that he won, and Brianna Stewart, and really like so many talented groups individually and collectively. What can you say about that change and him, leaving the program, and just, I mean, I want to give some credit to him because, I mean, CNS girls basketball in this community and beyond is very well known because of individual and collective.
So obviously, Eric has done a phenomenal job as the girls basketball leader.
Yes.
He obviously left for personal reasons. Wanted to be home. His boys are now entering, the high school time, so he wants to be there for them. He is running our unified basketball program, so he's still somewhat involved. But big shoes to fill. However, we were fortunate enough. Rob Seitchen works in our building, and is a soccer coach, and when the position opened, they're a lot alike, but yet they are different. Super excited that as tough as it was to see Coach Smith go, because he has done such a great job and he is such a good coach. I felt better about him leaving, knowing that I was able to get Rob to take over the North Stars girls basketball program.
Yeah, I got to speak with Seitchen, and he got him back into basketball. So it was nice to talk to Seitchen and all this, and to Eric and to Rob. I mean, they both have treated me well, and I hope that Coach Seitchen has nothing but success. And to Eric, I can't thank him enough. The only coach to ever look me in the eye and demand something of me, and literally looked me in the face when we were doing an event together, and he was like, "You need to get your cousin back into basketball." And I was like, "I don't make those decisions." So I'll never forget that. I walked in to do an event with him, and he was like at Chick-fil-A Cicero, and he was like, "Why isn't she playing?" I was like, "I don't know. I mean, what?"
It sounds like Coach Smith.
I was like, I'm just here. I was like, talk to her dad. I don't know what to say. But so I'm happy. I'm happy that Seitchen's there, and Coach Smith. I mean, his reputation precedes him. So
both first class coaches.
So with that, rapid fire. You can ask me anything you want. And I have to answer it. We're live.
Okay. You've been doing this for how many years?
It'll be 18 in November. 18. More doing it than haven't done it in my life, which is cool.
What was your favorite person to interview? Famous?
Favorite person to interview? I would say on WakeUpCall, we've had, I think at this point it's at least 2,500 guests. So I would say my favorite, it's really hard because there's a lot of people that I love, but I think somebody who I still think is going to I still think I'm going to show up at the Dome, and I still think he's going to turn around in his suit and he's going to go, "Dan, there he is." It's Floyd Little. And Floyd and I became friends really close over the last 8 years that, he was alive. Maybe 8 of the last 9 because he went home and all that, but I think he knows now what he did for me, but I mean, this man was a reference on my resume. He called a radio station on my behalf and said, "You need to hire him." He did a video for my grandmother's 100th birthday. And at the Crossroads, when I left the radio station and started my company, he believed in me. And he saw something in me. And I'll never forget, because I was like on the verge of tears. I was upset. I was confused. I didn't know if I was going to stay here or leave. I was really just very mistreated by where I was, the people there. And I just remember, because I've always had this issue, I call it the Captain America complex, when you try to be a good person and people treat you like you're a bad person. And I just remember being at my wit's end, and I said to him, and he was on the phone, and I was in his office, and I said, "Floyd, what do you see when you look at me?" Like, what do you see? And he sat back and he goes, and he would whisper and then he'd get loud and you'd hang on every word. And he's like, damn, he's like, when you walk through here, I saw an aura. He's like, some people have energy that you can see and some people don't. He goes, you had this aura, like this light, and I could see it. And he's like, you just know when you meet somebody who's going to be successful. And he's like, you got it. You got to be okay. You got it. You're going to be successful. I know you are. And I don't think he knows that he was one of the nails in the coffin of me starting my business. I was 26, 27. I had I'm not kidding. I had 27 cents in my pocket, and I had $103 in my bank account. And I started my business. My parents were supportive, and I lived with my grandmother because I was taking care of her. She had fallen, and I just wanted to take care of her, greatest person in the world. So I started with that. I started with literally thin air. I didn't know how I was going to broadcast, what I was going to do. I didn't understand the internet of what I had to do. I wasn't live, and I literally just took the air in front of me and I said, God, I know nothing else other than the fact that we can do this together. And now my business turned 9 on June 12th, 2021. And it's a tangible commodity where I can literally say, hey, I need you to go here and do this. And it's not thin air anymore. It's real. You can touch it. And Cafe Kubal knows that. I mean, everybody we get to work in the community knows that. And the high school athletes, college athletes, pro athletes, they know it. The coaches, the ADs. So, like, to be where I am today, he doesn't know that he was one of those nails in the coffin. Now you do, Floyd. I love you. But I miss him like crazy. And his book and his hat that he signed for me are in my studio. And I still think he's going to show up because we had a season without fans. And so to me, 2021, I'm going to go to a game. I'm going to go to a press conference. And he's going to be there. And so I love you, Floyd, and I know you're watching over us, and I hope the best for your family, and just be a guardian angel to me and all of us, and we love you. And I would say, I know it's a long answer, but I would say my favorite superpowered pop, my entertainment show that I do, is Michelle Harrison. And my favorite TV show is The Flash, and she's the mother of The Flash on the TV show. And I did a CNY Pop Festival a couple of years ago, and she came. I flew her. I did sports and entertainment. Never been done like this that I know of. And in the country, you don't see a lot of this, I would imagine. And I had SU football and basketball players, and I had actors and actresses. And Michelle came, and she came from British Columbia, and she sat, and we did a panel. And we're in front of everybody doing this panel. And we didn't record it, which I wish somebody did. And she sat there and she said to me, you are one of the top 2 best interviews I've ever done in my life. And she's done over 70 movies. She's a singer and all this. She said, the way you talk and the way that you engage us, we can tell that you have it and you care and you listen. She said, there's something about you just you're in the right field. And she was impressed by me, and I damn near fell over. I was like liquid on my chair. So I think those moments are probably the best. I guess to throw it back to you, what has been your greatest moment as a director of athletics?
It's a good one. It's always good to see the championships.
Yeah.
And got a little bit of this kind of goes with the girls lacrosse. But the one I'll never forget, just having been an alumni and having played football, and losing sectional final as a player, was the first one. And when we returned from the dome after winning, we met at Ollie's in the fire trucks, there must have been 10 of them, police. And they escorted us down Route 11 into the stadium. But going down Route 11, there were people pulled over clapping. Like, it was a really neat experience.
Yeah.
And then coming into the stadium, there were 500 people just waiting for the buses and just screaming and even going back to the game, it was from almost end zone to end zone. That first level was full of CNS fans, and it was just that was a proud moment. Just the amount of people, the community support, and I'm sure there's many more. You know, we had the escort for the girls this spring back to the school. Like, those are the ones that I remember. Just seeing the excitement of the kids, the parents, you know, people that just come to the games are just really excited. But that first championship for football will be one that really I'll always remember, especially the after, you know, just the excitement.
Yeah.
So
I remember Connor Hayes, my guy. I got to remember all the guys on the team now. Connor Hayes and Jeremiah Willis. And when the team won sectionals, and I was at the Dome, and I came down to the field, and I had known the team because we had done shows together. And Jeremiah came and gave me a hug, and Connor and all that. And Coach Klein said after the game, he's like, we're going out and celebrating. He's like, Danny, you're coming with us. And he goes, no cameras. and I went out. Yeah, I went out with them and celebrated. And it was one of the coolest things in the world. And it was a testament to what I always try to show, which is I'm more than a broadcaster, and I care. Because any other media person, they would never want to be at an after party. But they're like, you know, you're part of the family.
Well, that says something about you, because I don't know that he would have invited any other media
Yeah.
with the team. So
I remember this. He's like, Danny, you're coming, and I thought it was like no cameras, but I mean, Coach Klein has always been good to me, and it was to be there and to be on the sideline. It's one thing to do an interview when a team wins. It's one thing to like be able to be one of the first people to interview, whatever. Like to do, not even the first, but just to be there. It's another thing when they get off the field, take off their helmet and hug you. And to me, it's like you can't put anything on that. So, and I always do that with the coaches. I let Coach Klein go do his interviews with the media, and when he's done with everybody, I'm like, all right, now let's go do our video. So it just means something. When you have a relationship with people, it means something more than wins or losses, because Klein knows if he lost every game, I'd still talk to him. And that was one of the most fun moments I've ever had, was the celebration after. And it was in a really hard time in my life personally. So him inviting me out there, it brought a positive thing. So that was really cool. And I love that. So, and I love that you do the caravan. I think you need to have the escort. I love that you have that, because, you know, I never got to do that as a player, but I would think that's one of the greatest feelings in the world, to have, you know, to be escorted back and, you know, to feel like the president for like a minute is probably really cool. So kudos to you for doing that stuff.
yeah, it's cool.
What's your next one for me?
Tell us something that you're most proud of that we may not know about you, or something you've done.
Okay. I like that. Nobody's ever asked me that. Tell everybody something I'm proud of about me that people may not know. I would say that people have always known me for being a faithful person. I've always had a close relationship with God, and I don't hide it. But I think my faith has gotten stronger, and I'm more resilient, and I'm more calm in it. I think I always taught people faith, but I didn't practice it. Meaning, when I had to trust God, I didn't do it as well as I should have, but I taught people how to do it. So I would say my faith is stronger. I would say I know how to love better. And I would say that something that the people may not know. I would say that for everything that I've been through in my life, I kind of always just went through stuff because I thought there's no other option. And at 35 years old, when I look back on things I've been through, my life is easy compared to 99.9% of people in the world. But that 0.1%, I could have turned out a lot differently. And I'm happy that I've had the parents I've had, the grandparents I've had, the friends that I've had. I have no yes men in my life, which I love that. And I think, my bruises are not visible. And I've really worked on not letting them define who I am. So I would say the person that ends up with me is going to get a fighter. And I hope that they appreciate that. I would say that. My one for you is, what do you consider to be your most difficult and greatest accomplishment?
Difficult and greatest. Professionally, personally?
Anything. Open-ended. Because normally the great ones are the ones that are hard to get to, so.
I have an answer, and I think it would be the job itself. And what I mean by that is, I know when I had interviewed for it, I was younger, didn't have the experience that maybe some of the other candidates did. Some people may have thought I didn't deserve it. And there were some that did believe that there was potential there. And so that was a difficult part as far as battling, getting people to trust and believe, and hopefully I have proven the doubters wrong, and always done things the right way and try to do the right thing for the athletes and the coaches.
What do you think got you, kind of going off that, what do you think got you hired, being younger and not having the experience?
I don't know if it was maybe the relationships and connections I had with some of the people that were on the committee of hiring. And having been in a leadership role in a different capacity before that there was maybe the thought of the potential and where it could go. So.
And you've been CNS for how long?
Been at CNS since 2008, but 2012, July 1, 2012. So this is going my 10th year?
Yeah. So you're about to have a decade at CNS.
It's hard to believe it's gone fast.
How does that feel?
It's good. Yeah.
To be with the alma mater?
Yeah.
Be home. What's your last one for you?
I had one as you were reading off the second one. It was in regards to what got you. Was there a person or thing that got you interested in this field as a broadcaster, or what was it that drew you to this?
I would say I've always loved sports. I've always played, and played basketball my whole life, from 7 on. When I was handed a basketball, I think at 3, there's a blow-up one in a pool that had a hoop. And then I remember I used to shoot underhand. And my aunt told me to shoot overhand. I used to make a lot of shots underhand, which was awesome. And then I used to practice overhand in her driveway in Massachusetts. in Amherst, and I could always shoot from the corners. I love the corner threes. Hardest shot to make because you gotta like, you can't really angle it. So, and then I remember it was difficult for me to shoot threes from the corners on the top, and I had to teach myself. And now if I shoot 5 half-court shots, I feel like one of them is going to go in. But it was training. There's a lot of training. I hated to run. But I meant like God-given talent working on my shot. If I had ran as a kid, I'm like, what could I have? I mean, I'm 5'8". I would have played D2 or D3. I got recruited D3. But, I look back on what got me started. I love sports. I love collecting sports cards. I have a photographic memory, so I can flip a card and flip it over and memorize all the stats and see them in my brain. So my dad just said this to somebody yesterday. He's like, my son has the photographic memory, I don't. And so it was kind of all of that, but I say my mentor, who never knew he was my mentor, and now he does, and God bless him in heaven too, hanging out with Floyd Little, Stuart Scott. I always have been myself. And in high school, I got into a shell because I went to a high school with kids that were very mean. And I kind of wasn't me until my senior year. And then my wit came out, and all the things that were in my brain came out of my mouth. And they never went back in. And I love that. And not in a mean way. I was me. And I am. And I think, with Stuart, he just said what he wanted to say. And, cooler than the other side of a pillow and all that stuff. So I did ESPN Dream Job at ESPN The Weekend, and I won it. And I won it in front of Al Jaffe, who hired and fired for the actual ESPN. And I won it with Charles Tillman, who was the cornerback of the Chicago Bears at the time, and Vernon Davis, who was the tight end of the San Francisco 49ers. And all of them complimented. I'll never forget what any of them said. Charles Tillman, he sat there and he went like this. And he didn't say anything for a minute. He was like, really, dude? He was like, really? And I'm looking at him and I go, what? He goes, that was awesome. Like, I got nothing. He's like, that was a great. And because we had to be on SportsCenter, and what they did is they picked 3 of us out of a crowd. They told us to just do something on the fly. So I created a play in my head and commentated the play amidst all these strangers. I was by myself. I was with nobody. And then they took us and they said, you got to pick between 3 different events. It was baseball, college football, and the Super Bowl, which was Steelers-Cardinals. And they handed us a DVD player, portable DVD player, headphones, put us in a room. There was 3 of us at a time. Put us in a room, and we had a shot sheet, which told us what we could say, and we could write in the margin what to say. And then we practiced it for a few minutes, and then they put us on stage and told us to go with the shot sheet in front of us, and we had to sit at the SportsCenter desk. The screen was up there. It showed us on the big screen to fans at Hollywood Studios. I knew nobody there. And then they put the B-roll up of the game, and we had to do SportsCenter with like 15 minutes of prep. And I won it. And Vernon Davis, I remember him saying to me, like, everything was perfect. I have no complaints. It's the greatest. He said, this is hands down the greatest I've ever seen anybody do at this. And then Al Jaffe said, I disagree with Vernon Davis on one thing. And I was like, oh, crap. Because this guy told you if you sucked. And he looks at me and he said, I disagree with everything, or I disagree with one thing, everything else I agree with. And he looked at me and he said, I think that your wardrobe is great. Because Vernon didn't like that I had different teams on. And he's like, you did a great job. It was awesome. And he gave me advice afterwards. But one of the things I did during it was I was like, can I do this in front of a crowd? And I was like, you got to be you. If you're going to win, you got to win on you. You got to win on Dan Tortora. You have to. So Larry Fitzgerald hit. And when he got that pass from Kurt Warner and he ran to the end zone, I was like, Kurt Warner drops back, gets it to Fitz. Is he going to catch it? And he breaks out of it like the Kentucky Derby. And I was like, dun 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 dun. And I did the whole thing like that. And I was like, and this horse is in the end zone. And I got excited. I got amped. And then I was like, is it enough? No, there's 2 minutes left on the clock. And I looked at my father. We both knew that there was way too much time there. And tippy toes in the end zone, Santonio Holmes. And I just did this thing from my heart. And when it ended, I paused. And the whole crowd erupted, and they stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And I remember going, like, I do this in the studio, and you don't know if there's anybody, like, feeling it. And so, I mean, I guess I fell in love with this thing because of sports, because I love being myself, and I'm original. Like, it's so hard to be original in today's world. Everybody copies. And I'm me. And I can tell you I'm me because I don't watch other people's shows. I don't have time. And so I don't know what they're doing because I'm not watching it and I'm not listening. And so I think what I've learned is there was so many things that connected me to why I love doing it, but I've barely gotten started, and I'm almost 18 years in. So I think if you didn't like me before, you're really not gonna like me now. But it's one of those things where I seek to help people, and I want to make the world small, and in a good way. And so I talk about faith. I make people laugh, and I try to make them think about stuff. And I talk to people that are in cubicles of jobs that they hate, and I talk to people that love what they do. So I think we run the gamut of like the grandparents to the little kids. We're a family show, and I want to believe we help people, and by the grace of God, some people have come to me and said that we have. So there's a lot of reasons why I love it, but I literally have not worked in 18 years, which is so cool, since I graduated high school. So it's been fun, and I love it. I would say my last question for you is, I'm going to go to music. Are you a music guy? Okay. Give me your top 5 songs if you had to listen to 5 songs for the rest of your life.
Okay. Working out recently, I got into that SoundCloud.
Okay.
And you can mix up or find mixes that people put on there that have whatever era that you want. But,
yeah.
I'll have to go back now. I grew up in the 90s, so I'll go.
How old are you?
44.
Okay, so I'm 35. So I like 60s, 70s, 80s, and the 90s up into Mbop. Once we hit Spice Girls and Hanson, you lost me.
Okay.
But before that, I was good.
So my go-to is Biggie.
Okay.
But I do the clean versions.
You can say you don't listen to the clean version, fine.
No, I do. Because a lot of times I'll have it on in the car.
Yeah.
So I like that. Now, more recently, probably in the last 15, 20 years, I'm into more of the country.
Okay.
Brett Young, we went and saw him at the Parks Casino.
Yeah.
My wife and I enjoy him.
Yeah.
That type of music.
So country and rap.
Yeah. So it's like what I grew up on now, and then more.
So who are your favorite country people?
I like Brett Young. Let's see, obviously Luke Bryan, but I would do Tyler Farr.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of who else that I was trying to think of what's on my.
I'm like Florida Georgia Line.
Yeah, I like them.
Dan and Shay.
I'm not a big fan of them.
No, not a big fan of Dan and Shay. Rascal Flatts always.
Yeah, I like them.
Carrie Underwood.
Sam Hunt, I like him.
Yeah, Sam Hunt's good. There's a lot of. I didn't know who they were when I was listening to them because I got into country late. So I didn't know like who Luke Bryan. I didn't know I was listening to Luke Bryan, but like Dan and Shay and Florida Georgia Line, Rascal Flatts, like I know who I'm listening to.
Like Darius Rucker too.
Darius Rucker,
like his voice.
Kane Brown. I like Kane Brown. I like this song Work. But there's a lot of, and he collaborates with John Legend. I love John Legend. So rap. I want to.
So
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say. So to that, like, obviously that was kind of like what we listened to growing up.
Yeah.
But I don't like put on like one artist. I try to like get a mix and
Yeah.
mix it up. And obviously, depending on if I'm driving or if I'm working out, there's a speed difference of that music.
You can't work out to country music.
Yeah. Well, some of those mixes you can because they tweaked it enough to.
But I love it when you call me Big Papa. You know, there's something different. More Money, More Problems. Still one of my favorite songs.
So we're going out to LA in August, and I've never been out there. And we're gonna go. There's a mural of him.
Yeah.
So I said I want to go.
Get to see Biggie.
Yeah.
Wear the crown.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, like, so do you listen to rappers now? You listen to Drake, Wayne, Kendrick Lamar?
So I only listen to music like that when I'm in the gym or working out. Otherwise, in the car or traveling. In the car, I just have the radio on, and I just listen to whatever's on.
Like Kanye West, pre-Kim Kardashian, was amazing. And the first thing I said when they were getting a divorce is, thank God his music will be good again. But it will be, hopefully. But I grew up on Mace, LL Cool J. I was spoiled, like you said, like 90s. As a kid, I think we were spoiled because I grew up like I was from like South Central Philly. I grew up on Will Smith, LL Cool J, Boyz II Men, New Edition, Bobby Brown, Brian McKnight, Anita Baker, Nat King Cole, Natalie Cole, the Fugees. I'm missing people. Michael Jackson, Prince. Like, I was so spoiled in music and Diddy and Mace and the Lox and Notorious B.I.G. Tupac kind of toward the end. But I was so spoiled in music that I don't know if you can keep up. Like, I like Drake and I like Wayne and I like Kendrick Lamar, but I don't think anybody can keep up with.
See, I don't think the rap music is what it used to be.
It's not, because back then it was an art. Now it's like the same thing. You know, it's violence, it's, sexual stuff. But back then it was an art. You know? Ludacris was great. He did like this one thing where he rapped for 15 minutes, no break. And it was like some backwoods mixtape that I've never found again. And he rapped about cereal at one point, and I'm like, he's rapping about Honey Nut Cheerios. Then he hit it with the Rice Krispies, and I'm like, oh my god. And then at one point I'm like, no. And then he did Fruit Loops, and I was in the car with Rudy and Evan, and I just remember going like, there's nothing greater than this. Like, he literally did anything and everything in this song, and it's like making your head. But I like the beat, and I like when somebody's just lyrically creative. Where if I said to somebody, like, rap to me about t-shirts for 5 minutes, go. Like, and they can just do it. So, I love that.
Made me think of the guy, and I'm drawing a blank, but I follow him on Facebook. You throw out 3 words, and
he'll do it?
And he raps about it, yeah.
Macklemore's good at doing stuff, I know that. And the song that I always think about Syracuse that I will play when I get up on stage and do like my first stand-up comedy routine is Young Jeezy's Put On. I Put On for My City. That song I will play hands down. I think I have to play the clean version. I think there's a couple words, but the chorus is not.
I was going to look to see who that was.
Yeah, who is this guy? Like, I don't know. 3 words?
Yeah.
So I'm sure people we're on Facebook right now. If you guys know, send it to us. But somebody who on Facebook, you can send them any 3 words and they'll rap with those 3 words. I thought about doing that with my show, like give me a word or a phrase I have to use in my broadcast, and I have to find a way to put it in the broadcast. Clean, obviously, but
I can't find it right now.
But there's somebody that does that. That's cool.
Yeah.
I like that.
And it's all like he'll have a beat in the background, but it's all from the hip. And Harry Mack.
Harry Mack. Okay. Harry Mack. All right. I like that.
He is.
Have you sent him stuff?
No. I just caught it on, and then I ended up following him. I've seen some of them.
Yeah.
Like he'll go into a park and start doing it. A lot of it's in the studio now with coronavirus, but
Yeah. I love, and that's the thing too, that's one thing that people don't know about me. People close to me do, is that I've rapped my whole life. And I challenge myself. or I'll listen to a song and a beat, and I'll change all the words, and I'll try and make it funny, but I'll change everything about it. And so I'll do it to like Disney songs, I'll do it to anything. But I love the thought of like somebody going, Fruit Loops, aluminum foil, and like taffy, go. Like, because it's like being on Chopped on the Food Network and having to create something out of nothing. So I love that. I love creating things, and it just does something to me. And right now I'm studying Chance the Rapper because he raps about God unapologetically. He believes that God has strong faith. And his song, The Heart and the Tongue, you should listen to that song. That's a good song. So with that being said, we have given you over our time here from Cafe Kubal. So Matt Goddard and the team, you got a bonus. CNS Director of Athletics for the North Stars, Tim Bednarski. Myself, Dan Tortora of Wake Up Call. Italy, champions of Euro 2020. They had to play their season late. So I've had this soccer ball for years, and I'm so happy. They won a World Cup in 2006, and now we got a Euro in 2020. So shout out to Italy, Viva Italia, for all of my family in Italy and all over the country and all around the world. For Tim Bednarski, myself, Dan Tortora, and the amazing staff at Cafe Kubal, 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in Syracuse. Outside 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital, and right here where we are right now, corner of Route 11 and Taft Road, Sweetheart Corners drive-through, Cafe Kubal's newest location, and whatever is to come. Shout out to Cafe Kubal. Thank you to all of our partners for supporting us in the community. A big time shout out to everybody that we have the blessing of working with, from Cafe Kubal to Carvel DeWitt, Wildcat Sports Pub, Avicoli's, to Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Millhouse Markets. I want to thank PB&J's Lunchbox, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, Mother's Cupboard, literally all of our amazing partners in the community. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. I can't thank you all enough. Green Goliath Toys and Games. I mean, we have an awesome team. And so from the CNS team to my team and your team, we wish you all a great day, and find us on Facebook at WakeUpCallDT, Twitter at CallDT, Instagram at WakeUpCall_DT, 24/7 on YouTube.com/WakeUpCallDT, and on WakeUpCallDT.com. And we'll see you the rest of the week, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. on Facebook, MixLR, YouTube, and more. And Tim, any final word about CNS?
No, go North Stars. Thanks for having me.
So we'll talk with you all soon. Be safe, be well, and as always, God bless. No stress. Do your best. We'll talk with you soon.